We ready to go? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. It looks like we have a quorum of the City Council. Before we begin today's business, I know everyone on this dais, everyone in this community knows that the City of Phoenix lost on 2 days ago an incredibly important leader and citizen in our community, Georgie Good. Georgie was a longtime educator, a longtime member of urban school boards, community activist and leader, a writer. She was a poet, and she happened to be the spouse of the former vice mayor of the City of Phoenix, Calvin Good. So I just ask everyone maybe to take a quick moment of silence as we remember a true legend in our community, Georgie Good. All right, thank you. And I know I speak for everyone here also to say to Calvin Good and the family, we are here to help you in any way we can during this very, very difficult time for your family. And this community appreciates the great work that Georgie Good did. We are a better city because of her leadership. The first thing on the agenda is an invocation. Today's invocation will be provided by Chaplain Jesse Escovel, who is the leader of the City of Phoenix Employees for Christ. If you can, please stand. Chaplain, good to see you.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for allowing me to be here. Let's pray. Lord, as we meet here today to conduct matters of business, guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. We thank you for being our source and guidance today. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chaplain. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Vice Mayor Daniel Valenzuela.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first piece of business is a convening of the Assisted Housing Governing Board. Joining us for purposes of business on that board is Board Member Amador Lopez. Good to see you.
Thank you.
So that meeting is now called to order. Would the City Clerk please call the roll?
Board Member DeCiccio. Here. Board Member Gallego.
Here.
Board Member Gates. Here. Board Member Lopez.
Here.
Board Member Nowakowski.
Here.
Board Member Pastor.
Here.
Board Member Waring. Here. Board Member Williams.
Here.
Vice Chair Valenzuela. Here. Chairman Stanton.
Here. Next item is minutes of the prior meeting. The last meeting was May 27th, 2015. Do we have a motion on those minutes?
Approve minutes.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The minutes pass unanimously. Councilman Pastor, do you have a motion on item number 4, proposed resolution as relates to choice?
Item 4 is this. Amador
I'm sorry.
motion. That's okay.
Item 5.
Okay, no, I apologize. According to the agenda, item number 5, the first resolution will be regarding adoption of the Phoenix Public Housing Authority's proposed asset management budget for fiscal year 2015-16. Mr. Lopez, you have a motion on that, on item number 4.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Mayor, hold on, a quick question.
Councilman DeCiccio, please.
But this also talks about the Gorman and the Choice Neighborhoods grant. Has it changed?
Item number 4 is the budget. Item number 5 is the issue related to choice neighborhoods. No problem.
I'm just told I've got a misprint in front of me. I'm sorry.
That we all do, yes.
Okay,
You're accurate. Yep,
thank
no
you.
problem.
I'm fine.
So item 4 is the proposed asset management budget. We have a motion in favor. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Councilman Pastor, item 5 was the item I was referring to. This has to do with recommending the City Council to authorize the City Manager to enter an agreement with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development as it relates to choice neighborhoods. Councilman Pastor.
So based on our discussion yesterday in the Neighborhood Housing and Development Subcommittee, I'm going to propose a motion. The Housing Department will be required to partner with public and private agencies, organizations, including civic organizations, and individuals together and leverage the financial and human capital resources needed to support the sustainability of the plan. These efforts should build community support for and involvement in the development and implementation of the plan.
May I ask a question on the motion? Is that the exact verbiage we had yesterday?
Correct.
Okay, then I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second motion.
Any comments? Oh, Mr. Lopez would like a second as well. Do we have any comments from members of this council? Councilor Zicio, do you want to jump in, please?
I've got a couple comments on that, and this is a step for the City of Phoenix to get the nonprofit community, nonprofit sector more involved in many of our projects at the city. If you look at this, and don't know what occurred here or what didn't occur here, but if you look at the debate that's been occurring across the country right now with some of these groups or some of these cities where they're talking about, well, we've got billions of dollars poured in there, what you're finding out is a lot of this money is literally being skimmed off the top. So by requiring the nonprofit communities to be the partner on this, those monies now will be diverted to those people that are the poorest, those people that need the help the most, and it'll start putting us in place in a direction where these nonprofits will be able to start taking care of the individuals in their own community. For years, these nonprofits have fought over scraps. Now we're talking about a huge policy shift here at the City of Phoenix that I think, if done right, will be a model for the rest of the country, where you'll start seeing these monies not skimmed off the top, but literally put directly into those communities that need the help. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any additional comments from members of this City Council? All right. Please, Mr. Lopez.
No comment, no questions.
Okay, we have no comments or questions. My understanding is that the motion was directed from the language in the application itself, so it is the motion includes language directly from the grant application.
The motion is part of what's in the application. What was changed will be required to partner. Where in the original language, I believe it said Housing Department will need to partner. So this will be required.
Okay, is that a substantive? I'm confused because I was told that this was taken directly from the application itself.
It's semantics in the sense of will need. Now it says will be required. So regardless,
I appreciate that. I just want to make sure. I want to be clear if is that a
Mayor, Councilman Pastor, staff is fine with that change.
Yeah.
We conform to that intent, and we'll continue to do so.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so I lost that. So is that intended that this has a substantive meaning or not a substantive meaning in the change?
I apologize. I think the entire motion is substantive, and it reflects our intent from the beginning, and so it codifies that. So staff is perfectly comfortable that we can comply with this, with the motion and be successful in that.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. Any additional comments or questions from members? Councilwoman Gallego, please.
This is a project in my district, so I have the pleasure of representing much of the public housing in the city of Phoenix. And this is moving forward with a private sector partner to try to apply for money from the federal government, go through some planning so that we can redevelop the housing, which is in need of redevelopment. So really we still have some swamp coolers, and if anyone was outside today, we really want to move towards upgrading that standards and bringing people into healthy living conditions with air conditioners and updates. And so I am hopeful we will be successful in this grant. And Gorman has been more successful than the city in the past. So this partnership, I think, should be very helpful in upgrading our public housing. And I look forward to a good, solid application and hopefully a good result.
Roll call.
DeCiccio. Yes. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. This meeting of the Assisted Housing Governing Board is now adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Lopez, very much for your
Thank you.
service
Thank
on
you
the
for
Assisted
having
Housing
me.
Governing Board. Appreciate it very, very much. Okay, now we're going to be in the formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilman DeCiccio. Here. Councilwoman Gallego.
Here.
Councilman Gates.
Here.
Councilman Nowakowski.
Here.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Here.
Councilman Waring. Councilwoman Williams. Vice Mayor Valenzuela.
Here.
Mayor Stanton.
Here. Next item on the agenda, roll call. Ms. Marquez is here as our interpreter. Please introduce yourself for the audience.
Mi nombre es Leticia Márquez. Si necesita asistencia o traducción al español, por favor, véame. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Okay, would the city clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G6038 through G6039, S41745, S41753, S41798, S41801, and S41804 through S41894, and resolutions numbered 21333 through 21338.
Thank you very much. We now have approval of the minutes. The first one for action is the May 27th, 2015 formal meeting of the City Council. Councilwoman Gallego,
Move
do you have a motion?
Move approval of the May 27, 2015 formal meeting minutes.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Next item, policy session, June 9th, 2015. Councilman Nowakowski, do you have a motion on those meeting minutes?
Yes, Mayor, move approval.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Next is boards and commissions. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on boards and commissions?
Motion to approve mayor's boards and commissions nominations.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Are there any members of the public to be sworn in today? Next, can we have a suspension of the rules for the swearing in of our chief presiding judge?
Motion to suspend the rules to swear in the chief presiding judge.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Since we already took this action in a vote, today is the day to make it official and swear in our new chief presiding judge. The judge wanted to note that there will be a formal investiture ceremony with all the appropriate pomp and circumstance that we cannot provide today, but will be in August, and it will be here in these chambers. We'll make an announcement so the public, legal community can come celebrate the investiture of Don Taylor as our chief presiding judge. But without further ado, I'll swear in Chief Presiding Judge Taylor, and then Chief Justice Taylor, our Chief Presiding Judge. Please come behind the dais, and each of the council members would like to thank you publicly, and we'll all be there for your investiture as well in August. Solemnly swear.
Solemnly swear. Constitution.
Of the United States.
Of the United States.
And the Constitution and laws.
And the Constitution and laws.
Of the state of Arizona.
Of the state of Arizona.
And that I will bear true faith.
And that I will bear true faith.
And allegiance to the same.
And allegiance to the same.
And defend them against all enemies.
And defend them against all enemies.
Foreign and domestic.
Foreign and domestic.
And that I will faithfully.
And that I will faithfully.
And impartially.
And impartially.
Discharge the duties.
Discharge the duties.
Of the office of.
Of the office of. Chief Presiding Judge of the Phoenix Municipal
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
You're official.
Yeah, it didn't take long either.
Congratulations.
You're a two-fisted drinker today.
All right, congratulations, Judge Taylor, to you and your family, and we look forward to that investiture ceremony, and you look good in your gown.
Item
number 1, which is this other sheet.
All right, next, we're going to deal with the budget items that need to be dealt with to finally and formally approve our 2015-16 City of Phoenix budget. So item number 1 under the budget items is the suspension of the rules. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, I move that the City Council suspend the rules and change the order of business for items 2 through 6.3 to permit the holding of public hearings and action related to the adoption of the final 2015-16 annual budget and year-end amendments to the 2014-15 budget ordinances.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion, a member of this body?
This is dealing with the annual budget, correct, Mayor?
These are the budget items, so any comments on that? I don't think we have any cards from the public. Councilman Cicio, any comments on the budget? Now would be a good time.
No, well, I've made it very clear before in the past that this is a budget that...
Oh, I'm sorry. This is suspension of the rules. I apologize. And then we'll get to the budget item. It's my fault. So it's suspension of the rules. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Councilman, I apologize. We'll get to you on the substantive budget item, which I think is going to be, we have a public hearing item number 2, and then the council votes on item number 3. Is that correct? So that would be the time for comments by the council on the substantive comments on the budget. 4 would be the best one. Okay. Okay. Thank you. We'll hold for 4 then. I apologize. Okay. So item number 2 is a public hearing on the adoption of the final 2015-16 budget and on the proposed 2015-16 property tax levy scheduled for council action on July 1, 2015. I now declare the hearing open. Are there any cards on that item? Okay, so the question, so there are cards on, they've signed up for other items, but they appear to be budget-related cards. Would now be the appropriate time to take them, or would it be later on?
Yes, Your Mayor, you'd be fine.
All right, thank you very much. Louis Schmidt, did you want to provide comments on the proposed city budget? Now would be the time to do it during public hearing on the proposed adoption. And then it looks like some people have donated time, so you have some additional time. But I know you like to get right to the point, so you don't need to take all that time if you don't want.
Correct. Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Louis Schmidt, President of AFSCME Local 2384. And I would just like to, this is the final discussion on the budget for for July 1 of 2015 to June 30th of 2016. So you probably figured, why are we speaking up today? Well, the employees, this is now going to be the 6th year that the employees have sacrificed for our community. So I wanted to take the time to thank all the employees in the audience, all the staff members, our police officers who are here, who, no matter what the call is, we're always doing our work. Now, after I speak up, a little bit later on, you're going to hear one of the council members, unfortunately just give us the same rhetoric about how these employees haven't been bled enough, they haven't sacrificed enough, which is just untrue. The work that the employees do, no matter what, whether you're sworn or not, it means something that provides a valid service to the entire city. We've had pension reform done on the employees. We've done that with the council's direction, and you guys have taken additional action, which keeps saving money over and over again. But again, the main objective is that we've gone 6 years with the employees, helping to balance the budget with the city. But in order to have a sustainable city for the entire community, we can't just keep repeating the same broken record. So we have to look for alternatives. I'm not saying here to, you guys are the ones who are supposed to have the expertise on how we can make a sustainable economy for the entire population, and that includes your employees too. Because the employees pay taxes, they're taxpayers too, and they feel we as employees, we feel how the economy has impacted everybody. So it takes tough council direction. We can't just keep repeating the same stuff that we've had in the last several negotiation sessions. We need strong council action, and it takes gutsy council action. But we can't just keep cutting our way. We've cut and saved. Earlier this morning, Councilman Gates at your committee, you guys celebrated saving over 103 million in efficiencies. Correct? Well, those efficiencies came because of many of the ideas that employees themselves had. Now you're going to hear that. All these employees are going to get automatic pay raises or, retention, some retention payments. Well, those are in the contracts. But if it was up to one council member, he wants to break those contracts. Now, we see what the city of Glendale is going through right now. Now, whether or not they want to keep the coyotes here, they want to break a contract, which is we know it's going to cost them more money in the long run. So again, that's not the direction to go in. Just because you may not like something doesn't mean that you have the right to try to just throw it out the window of what works. Now, again, the employees have to work longer now with the new pension reform, the rule of 87. So years of service plus age has to equal 87. So it's different from our council. I think Councilman DeCiccio retired, he's been collecting his pension since 2003. I think he was only like age 45 or 46. So if we're going to throw arrows and throw darts at the employees, we must ourselves lead by example. So in order to have a good budget for this next fiscal year, from here and beyond, it takes tough council action. We know, you guys know that we've proven ourselves that we've always been here to help you guys. We may not always come to an agreement, but the employees continue to sacrifice, and we continue to be integral players to make sure that our community thrives. Because of our sacrifices, we've had after-school programs. Because of our sacrifices, we've kept many of the art programs, the dog parks, the senior centers. So again, we have to remember, instead of always attacking the low-hanging fruit that are the employees, we must embrace them and acknowledge them for their sacrifices. So, Mayor, thank you for your time. And just, again, we ask that the council look for alternatives, and we need some leadership on behalf of everybody. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schmidt. Next speaker on the underlying budget, on the budget as part of public hearing is Mr. Pat Vent. Mr. Vent, did you have comments on the proposed budget? Up to 2 minutes.
Yes, I am Pat Vent, and thank you very much for letting me speak. Again, all about this budget. This is how thick this book is, and there's a major problem here. They say the employees have to be taken care of. Well, you better start thinking that if there were no citizens, you would not need employees. I feel for them like I feel for everybody, but you can't just take it out on the citizens of Phoenix, and especially small business. A few years ago, there was a person that took care of the fire department, like the gentleman that just spoke. Had an article in the paper showing firemen fighting a fire of a house that was worth maybe $1 million. And he said, "Isn't this terrible?" We have these firemen and policemen, and I respect all of them. They have a job to do. But he was saying, in all his stupidity, they have to fight a fire that they can't even afford to have a house like that themselves. How about the young ladies and gentlemen now that are flying fighter planes in the wars? 25, 26 years old, like Diane Barker's father was way back in World War II, a bomber pilot, and he had a big crew. But someone has to have the ability to think a little bit and call in people and have a meeting. Don't have your closed-door meetings where you make your own decisions and people have no idea what you even talked about. And then you come out and say we have to go along with that. If I had a half a chance, I would move out of Phoenix so fast. But I've got a lot invested here, so I'll have to stick around.
Thank you for your testimony very much. That's all the cards I have to testify on the budget. Is anyone else in the public here to testify on the proposed 2015-16 City of Phoenix budget? Going once, going twice. Item 2 is now closed. Item number 3 is the convening of a special meeting of City Council to consider adoption of the 2015-16 budget. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, in accordance with state statute, I move that the regular meeting of the City Council be recessed and the City Council convene a special meeting to consider adoption of the budget.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes. Now we're on item number 4. Item number 4 is the proposed adoption of the final 2015-16 annual operating funds budget for the City of Phoenix. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, I move that item 4, being ordinance S-41804, the final 2015-2016 annual operating funds budget be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Councilman Tissot had comments earlier, and I apologize. This is the appropriate time.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I wasn't going to say anything because I laid it all out last week, but since the labor groups wanted me to, and for those new individuals in the audience here, let me walk through you what is in this budget, which you get to hear all the niceties of what's in there and what's not in there. Let me lay out for you the specifics and why that there's a fiscal issue here at City Hall, why we have more money coming into our general fund than we've ever had in our history, and next year we're going to be looking at another close to $50 million deficit. In this budget, there is close to $319 million in total retirement costs at the City of Phoenix, $319 million, and growing at a clip of close to $20 million a year. In there, which you pay for, and you can just guess, and this is where the labor groups are saying that we need to field their pain. Well, let me tell you what their pain is. The average cost per employee, with about 12,000 employees here at the City of Phoenix, is about $109,000 per year. Now, what operation in the private sector could operate like that and make it work? Here, this is how it's done. This is why you have a problem. At the lowest level that we have here is what's considered to be a clerk. A starting clerk, lowest level we have in the City of Phoenix. Guess how many days off a starting clerk gets at the City of Phoenix in their first year of service? 40.5 days off their first year. There is also in this budget $69 million by delaying these pension expenses, literally using a credit card to pay for long-term debt. You're using debt to pay debt. That's going to cost taxpayers an additional $69 million at the end of the term. Those are the types of things that are built into this. We also concluded a study. These are the top 50 individuals at the City of Phoenix when they retired. These are individuals that have already retired. And this is endemic throughout the entire system. Guess how much money 50 individuals will take by the time they are 75, not 78.6 like everyone else. We use conservative numbers. $183 million 50 individuals will be able to take out of the system. This is what we have. This is the problem that we have. And if you ask for money from us and why the city doesn't have enough money to take care of the poor, take care of those individuals that need it, it's because it's being taken away from them. And it's being taken away because we have these types of budgets that are not fiscally accountable. You'll hear them say, oh, it's a fiscally responsible budget because we would never propose that. Who would propose a 40.5 days off for a starting clerk? It doesn't work like that. It's not real world. And I'm going to be voting against this budget, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments by members of this council? All right, so we have a motion on item number 4. We have a second. This is it, City Manager, right? We've had about a variety of votes to get to this point, but this is the final vote on this budget.
This is the final vote on the budget. There will be one on July 1st about the property tax, but this is the budget vote.
All right, good. All right, so we have a motion. We have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
No.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes 6-3, I believe. 6-3. All right, next item is item number 5. Item number 5 is the adoption of the final 2015-16 capital funds budget. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, I move that item 5, being ordinance S-41805, the final 2015-2016 capital funds budget, be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments by members of this council on item number 5? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. Item number 6 is the proposed adoption of the final 2015-16 reappropriated funds budget. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, I approve that item 6, being ordinance S-41806, the final 2015-2016 reappropriated funds budget, be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. Vice Mayor, a motion to adjourn the special meeting.
Mayor, I move the City Council adjourn the special meeting.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The special meeting is now adjourned. I can clear that that the special meeting is concluded, and we are going to reconvene the regular City Council meeting and move forward. The next item on the agenda is, are we on the item number 7 then?
6.1, 2, and 3.
6.1 and 2, I apologize.
2 and 3.
So item 6.1 amends the 2014-15 annual operating funds budget to authorize reallocating appropriations. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, I move that item 6.1, being ordinance S-41891, the required reallocation of the 2014-15 operating budget appropriations, be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I should have mentioned earlier that 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3 are legally required to amendments to the current 2014-15 budget, which allows the city to close out the current fiscal year's budgetary accounts and proceed with the annual independent audit. So these are necessary legal actions of the council. We have a motion on 6.1. We have a second. Any comments or questions by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Item 6.2 amends the 14-15 annual capital funds budget to authorize reallocating appropriations. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, I move that item 6.2, being ordinance S-41892, the required reallocation of the 2014-15 capital funds budget appropriations, be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments on that? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Item 6.3 amends the 14-15 annual reappropriated funds budget and also to authorize reallocating appropriations. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, I move that item 6.3, being ordinance S-41893, the required reallocation of the 2014-15 reappropriated funds budget appropriations, be adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Yes. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Yes. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes unanimously. We are now back on regular business of the City Council. Now we'll move on to item number 7. Item number 7 has to do with the proposed Skunk Creek Landfill Drainage Improvement Repair Construction Project. Do we have a motion on item number 7?
Motion to approve item 7.
Is it motion to approve, or do you want to reject all bids?
I'm sorry. Motion to reject.
Second.
We have a motion to reject all bids. We have a second. Are there any cards on item number 7? Any comments by members of this council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The reject all bids passes unanimously. Next is liquor license applications. Vice Mayor.
A motion to approve items 8. I'm sorry. Yeah, motion to approve items 8 through 27, except 8. We have a speaking card on 8, correct?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Have any questions? I apologize.
Number 8.
Make sure you repeat the motion. I apologize.
Motion to approve items 8 through 27, holding out item 8.
No,
for,
holding. Is it 8 or 28?
Do we
Which
have
one are we
a
holding out? I
card on
apologize,
8?
Mr. Clerk. Okay, so 8 through 27.
So motion to approve items 8 through 27.
Holding out item number 8.
Item 8
cards,
for a speaking card. Correct.
Okay. So the motion is 8 through 27. Holding out number 8. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. We have a motion on item number 8.
Motion.
This is item number 8.
I make the motion to approve, but I would like to hear the card.
We have a motion. It's Mr. Vint. We have a motion in favor of item number 8. Do we have a second?
A second.
Mr. Vint, you wanted to provide testimony on the liquor license for the Safeway store number 240 in Councilman Williams' district, up to 2 minutes, and I would politely request that you stay on the topic at hand.
Yes, I am Pat Vint again and again and again. This should be a no-brainer for anybody. Safeway store number 240. You'll spend hours and hours and hours trying to condemn or not let a small business sell liquor. And that's something here that you want to approve this, and you should. There's not anyone in the world that can live unless you're a farmer like we were for the first 20 years of my life. We pretty well provided everything we need. We had cows and chickens and pigs and hogs and all that good stuff. So anyway, what we need to do here is to be sure that grocery stores can sell anything they like. And then if they break the rules, then you send the police out, which are very capable, shut them down or do what's needed to be done. That's why we have police. And if the store catches on fire, you send out the fire department. But anyway, start thinking when you spend so much time on all these items on liquor licenses after you get through with this one. Because again, I think you all forget that there is citizens in this country and in Phoenix. And Sal DeCiccio, thank you for covering everything. I just can't imagine why you can't get more than Bill Gates and Jim Waring over there to agree with you and vote no. It's if they have no idea what business is all about.
All right, Mr. Vint, I hate to break up the complimentary words towards Councilman DeCiccio, but we have to stay on topic. The topic is the liquor license relative to the Safeway number 240. We have already approved about 8 or 9 other Safeways on this very agenda. You were making general comments in favor of safety. Do you have any specific comments as it relates to this store?
Yes, I want to approve this. and every chance you get, approve this stuff.
All
Quit
right.
wasting citizens' time and effort.
I appreciate that. Your comments are duly noted. So the comments are in favor. We have a motion in favor of number 8, liquor license item number 8. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item number 28, I believe. Item number 28 is a proposed liquor license in District 8. Councilwoman Gallego, how would you like to proceed?
I move that we continue the liquor's license for Moe's Mini Mart in District 8 to our July 1st meeting, and there is a waiver on file.
We have a motion. We have a second to continue. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item is item number 29. Item number 29, I believe, is a public hearing for the proposed annexation of 13th Avenue and Whispering Wind Drive. I will now open the public hearing. Are there any cards on item number 29? Is any member of the public here to speak on item number 29, a proposed annexation of 13th Avenue and Whispering Wind Drive? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. Are we taking any action on this item today? Next item on the agenda is item number 30. Item number 30 is a public hearing on the proposed annexation of 17th Avenue and Briles Road. I will now open the public hearing. There are cards on this item. We have, let's see, 3 cards, all opposed to the proposed annexation. Ms. Julie Burns, did you provide testimony on this item? Ms. Burns? Followed by Laurel Brody, followed by James Talapt, I believe. Ms. Burns, good to see you. Up to 2 minutes of testimony on the proposed annexation.
Okay, yes, I'm Julie Burns. I'm one of the neighbors that live on the county island. It's a triangle there. I am obviously opposed to it. We have a different lifestyle out there. It's all rural. There's horses, completely different than zoning S1. So I was kind of really hoping that it would not be approved. There's nothing in the area that has penetrated past the county island except for the subdivision. Nothing against the owner of the land. He is an entrepreneur, like actually probably 90% of us out there. So nothing against him. It's just the property. We would rather him have a well, a sewer, and not have city services. The developer did give him an easement so he can have water. We just really don't want him to build out there and have that water. It would change the whole character of our land. And that land, he actually bought it knowing it was useless because you have to have over an acre to build a house. It was posted on the MLS when he bought it and also signed multiple waivers and documents to verify he knew that it was basically bought as is and probably not buildable. I guess that's kind of it, but I want to keep talking though. So yeah, I guess that's the main concern. Once he gets over to City of Phoenix, we'll be changed to City of Phoenix and it'll just change the whole character out there. We really, really like that county island and want to keep it a county island and really don't want the City of Phoenix to penetrate past where it has already came. So we ask the developer and the owner and council members to please reject the annexation. They can go anywhere else. South of Happy Valley is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. And just want to remind everyone there will be no vote on this item today. Okay. No, I appreciate that. Next card, also marking opposed, Laurel Brody.
Hi. My name is Laurel Brody, and I'm a property owner also on the county island where the property is located. First, I'd like to make it clear there's nothing personal in our opposition. I have never met and do not know the owner. I do know, however, that we live in a unique area in our county island. Personally, my husband and I have lived there since 1988. He and his dad own the land since the 70s. He's since passed away, but he built his home on the 2.5 acres bordering ours. And we have been raising our daughter here since birth. She's now 15. We watched the area grow, knowing that progress had to happen, but also watched the county island grow with people that all mainly came here for the same reason, and we were all more than willing to make sacrifices to live in this kind of an area in order to retain the way of life that we were seeking. This led us to believe that this island could and would endure the growth around us and be able to maintain the reason for being. We personally came here at a time when we really couldn't envision the growth that had overtaken us, yet our area was semi-successful maintaining its rural roots. The nature where we live is also partly to blame for the lack of people here today, because a lot of people didn't even know that this was happening. We as a neighborhood, however, have a lot of reasons to oppose this. First and foremost in my mind is why should someone that knowingly or unknowingly purchased an unbuildable piece of land be given such a monetary boost by the city? This land does have value, but only to the value of the property owners that border it. This leads to suspicion of motivation by both the owner and the city as to why they would want to be in the city. Why would a developer which borders the northwest corner of this parcel agree to assist the owner in a small piece of land to obtain city services? I've never seen a developer that had no stake in something with a desire to assist bordering property owners. We know especially that the development of USAA land, that once the city has their foot in the door, we have likely seen the end of our rural county island. I urge you to consider this carefully, as part of what makes the city of Phoenix a very unique area and desirable as a big city to live in is the diverse types of lifestyles scattered throughout the entire city for people to choose from. I have more, but can I take his 2 minutes? Because he's only going to say I oppose. Jim, can I have your 2 minutes, Jim?
I'm not going to argue with you if he's not going to argue with you.
Okay. It's not much more. The diverse type of lifestyles gathered throughout the entire city for people to choose from. County islands can add a great deal to this choice and diversity, and to those of us that have embraced this lifestyle, we should be protected in some way. Unfortunately, it's hard to find that protection, as we really have no government representatives that would fight for us to maintain what we work so hard to get, and we are left on our own to do so. It used to be that you had to have 2.5 acres to build there. It has dropped to 1.25, and in fairness to all who have built within these requirements, it should not be allowed to be less than that. We always had thought we were protected from high-density growth because of the canal. We never knew it was until it was too late about a development bordering this, which also had no notification. It was very hard to even find notification on this. There was one small notice on the side of one mailbox up there. So I understand some things are inevitable, and we've already seen the loss of parcels due to their location on Happy Valley and 19th Avenue, and knew that that was an unwinnable fight. But this annexation really is now coming to the heart of our community, and it is my belief that if this goes through, it will be the beginning of the end of our unique and hard-fought little piece of paradise in the city, and I adamantly urge you to vote no on the annexation request. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. James Talent? You want the last 4 seconds of the...
Well, in deference to the mayor's pronunciation of my name, it's Talent, and everybody looks very nice. I oppose it for my own personal reasons. I've lived there for over 40 years. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that's the last card. I believe we close this hearing. Now we open up the next hearing, correct? Item 31. Yeah, that's okay. We got it. All right, now this is the public hearing regarding the Broadway Road, Avenida Rio Salado project, Area 6E annexation. It is now open for public hearing. Do we have any cards? No cards, so I can close this public hearing. Pull this over here. We have one more. Okay, so actually that is the end of it, correct? So moving on to item 32. Okay, item 32 is for liquor license application in District 5. JJ's Liquor, and I will ask for staff report.
Mayor and members of the council, this request is for a new Series 12 license for a restaurant doing business as JJ's. This location was previously licensed for liquor sales as JJ's Grill and is currently operating with an interim permit. Consideration should be given only to the applicant's personal qualifications. Staff recommends disapproval of this application based on a police department recommendation for disapproval.
Okay, I know we have the, I'm going to give the applicant an opportunity. We'll go to the cards. We do have the detective here as well, who I'm sure would like to give his report. We'll start with Mr. Michael Bates.
I request that the detective go first so that
Fair enough, Mr. Bates. We'll have our detective come out and give his report.
Vice Mayor, Council, thank you for your time. Detective Washburn, Maryville Precinct. I've had an opportunity to investigate this individual, Michael Bates, who currently owns Bull Shooters Bar at 3337 West Peoria in Phoenix. He's owned that bar for about 5 years now. 7 years, and there's a considerable number of issues at that bar that give me concern that he will operate this new Series 12 license at 9611 West Camelback with the appropriate prudence that the state requires and the city desires from a state liquor license holder. Those problems include numerous acts of violence that were reported in Phoenix Department reports, a couple of which were incurred serious life-threatening injuries to the patrons. Throughout the reports, there is a thread of over-service, over-intoxication amongst the patrons, failed to protect by management and staff when there were problems in the bar. And currently, as was stated previously, JJ's is open with an interim permit, and there's already been one violation that has been documented by the Department of Liquor, and they are being cited for that. There are two violations actually that they found the manager on duty drinking and intoxicated while performing managerial functions. There's also been another allegation from a source there that a manager there was fighting with patrons and throwing beer bottles, and that is still under investigation and has not been currently resolved. But it's for those reasons that I find serious issues with the applicant, Michael Bates, that he has the qualifications to hold a liquor license, another liquor license within the city of Phoenix. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bates, Michael Bates, followed by Randy Nations. The third card was Detective Washburn. In opposition.
Hello. Thank you for having me here, Council. I'm here to state my case for approval to JJ's Grill for a Series 12 license. I've read the police report from the department and their disapproval based on incidents in my bar known as Bull Shooters. I purchased Bull Shooters 7 years ago after it closed. It's part of the Metro Gateway complex. Had we not opened Bull Shooters, the center was headed for complete closure, as the remaining two businesses were about to leave. They were making arrangements prior to that. Not only did we keep the center from becoming another vacant property in the Phoenix area, we helped to fill the center, which is now 90% full, including taking anything and doing anything we can to bring in a Planet Fitness and several other businesses. It's now 90% full. We worked with the Homeowners Association and created a business alliance in the area, which has revitalized the Metro Center area. Our group that has been at Bull Shooters, we've raised over $200,000 for charities. This is individuals, people with handicaps, as well as Crisis Nursery, every one you could do. We do charity events there. We make it a point that Bull Shooters is a family-friendly environment. We host the National Pool Youth Tournament last year. We also host a 39 and Holding, which is a senior citizen pool league every Friday night. They are very comfortable there at our bar. We also open our bar every year to 150 autistic kids from One Step and Beyond. These are young adults that come in and have a great time there. We take care of them, and we open our arms to them. We take doing things in the community very serious. In 7 years, we have hosted 13 national events, 12 state final events, and several times been voted Arizona's best pool hall and best dart bar. Our staff has all liquor training prior to what the detective said. All bartenders have management training. We take safety of our patrons very serious. We are the biggest bar in the state, 400 to 500 people on Friday and Saturday nights, 200 to 300 every night. We've had one person hit inside the bar that was injured. That report was made, and we were found not guilty of any wrongdoing. Our agent Randy Nations, who will speak next against the allegation toward JJ's, has an outside agency which comes in 3 times a month to do checks on us. 432 checks we do on our own to make sure we are doing the right things at Bull Shooters. We've never paid an insurance claim. We provide a shuttle service for our customers during big events, and we hire off-duty police department. It is sad that a certain individual has the power to meet with me for less than 1 hour and make false and misleading allegations towards myself and my establishment. The Phoenix PD and liquor officers have been at JJ's more times in 3 months than they've been in my bar in 7 years. Somebody has is bordering on harassment, I feel. Having said that, in closing, I put my heart and soul into Bull Shooters, and I'll do it at JJ's too. We have the best bar in the state for people from 16 to 80. We contribute sponsors and host many events to local schools and youth programs. I am blessed to have my great family support with my wife, my daughters, and the community. We have grasped and done a great job with them. I had over 100 letters of referrals to let me do it. I've given them to some of the council members. We do nothing but good things there, and I thank you for your time on this matter.
Mr. Bates, thanks for your testimony. You went a little over the 2 minutes, but I wanted you to have a chance to create a record because I know there's a chance this might go before the state liquor board. Mr. Nations, you're representing Mr. Bates and JJ, so I'll count his time against you. You have about 1 minute. How's that? It's not good. You need more time?
I do.
All right. We'll give you the full 2 minutes, but try to keep it as brief as possible, again, for the purpose of allowing you to create a record for the what may be a full liquor hearing before the state liquor board. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name's Randy Nations. I own and operate a company known as Arizona Liquor Industry Consultants. We do virtually everything dealing with a liquor license. Mr. Bates has hired us to come in. We come in twice a month to do internal spot checks, looking for illegal or inappropriate activities. I noticed that this application is being recommended for disapproval based on the police report. I went through the police report. I found 7 counts of failure to report act of violence, 4 counts of over-intoxication, one of which was involving multiple patrons, 2 accusations of failure to provide videos to the police, and 1 accusation of failure to protect a patron. After going through these, I've worked for with the Department of Liquor and for the Department of Liquor for many years, actually since 1976. I know that these violations are specific to what the Department of Liquor goes out and looks for. The fine on the failure to report is, the first offense is $750. Fine for intoxicated on premises, the first offense is $1,500 and or a 30-day suspension. Failure to provide the documents to the police department is a $1,000 fine. All of these are first offense, and failure to protect is a $1,500 fine. The department is very adamant about trying to prevent these type things. I went through this report. I pulled out of these specific allegations, and I want you to know that to date, not 1 complaint has resulted against Mr. Bates on all of these accusations. Not 1. Mr. Washburn said that there's another accusation at the Department of Liquor, and I thought we had addressed that, but I think I'm very confident we'll get that dismissed. I know this is, I don't want to run over, but this is America. You can convict anybody you want on accusations, but at least give me the chance to defend myself. This isn't fair. Making all these accusations with absolutely no charges, that's not right, and I'd ask that you support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nations. No one will be convicted here today. All we do as a body is vote to make a recommendation to the State Liquor Board. Will be the final determinant body on this issue. But I just want to make sure it's clear that no matter what happens here today, no one's being convicted of anything. James Sheffley is the property owner, not wishing to speak, but in favor of the proposed liquor license. Melissa Hermanson is in favor. Available to speak if requested. Either of you would like to speak in light of the testimony you've heard here today? Okay, so make sure your desires are known for the record. I'll now hand it over to Councilman Valenzuela. The proposed liquor license is in his district. What's your pleasure?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank our applicant. I want to thank Mr. Nations, Detective Washburn, all of you for just doing your diligence. I especially want to thank my team, specifically Mallory Hutchison, my chief of staff, who was probably a day or two on the job, and this has taken a lot of time, and for good reason. You know, initially when we first seen this, we didn't have any, you know, when we looked at bull shooters, and there wasn't a whole lot of issues from the neighborhoods, which usually when I review a liquor license case, what really, I go to the neighborhood leaders. I have a really great relationship with all of our neighborhood leaders, and of course, our police department. And I was, you know, I felt comfortable. There's some differences here. You know, bull shooters is a bar, pool hall. JJ's is a bar grill. It's a restaurant. I know the area very, very well. There are no, you know, neighborhood issues in the area. I am concerned. I was concerned the first time this came around with the police report. I wasn't the only one. Several people on this council spoke up, and that's why we had to continue it. And you know, the detective has some serious reservations, and I had a chance to really you know, just jump in and study that information. The reason I am going to have to not support this and support staff recommendation, and I have to say, and I understand that from what Mr. Nation said, that you're confident, sir, that this is going to be thrown out, but the case over at JJ's, the issues during the temporary permitting period over at the new place, that wasn't Detective Washburn who did that, who actually investigated or, you know, checked in or dropped in. That was the Arizona Department of Liquor who dropped in apparently, and who reported that, I believe back in March. And it's just, given the current reservations that what was, you know, determined and found over at bull shooters in just this particular case, I think the best thing at this point is to support staff recommendation. So that's exactly what I'll be doing in this case.
All right, so the motion is to deny the liquor license based upon the recommendation of the Phoenix Police Department. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Mayor?
Any comments from members of the council? Councilman Williams, please.
Mayor, I will not support the motion. I have had the privilege of representing Metro Center in my district. Bull shooters has been a great community asset. They have worked very closely with the Metro Business Alliance. The Metro Block Watch gave glowing reviews because I called to confirm and make sure something hadn't happened that I didn't know about. But I appreciate what you've done for our community and all the events you've had, and I cannot support this motion.
All right, any other comments by members of the council? Councilman Nowakowski?
Mayor, I have some questions for staff.
Please.
Is there any public concerns or comments or protests from the committee?
Mayor, members of the council, Councilman Nowakowski, staff did not receive any protest or support letters during the comment period for this application.
And those accusations, those four citations or so, were they actually fined or?
Mayor, members of the council, Councilman Nowakowski, those are reports that the police department has included for calls for service. The applicant is required to report acts of violence at the state. Acts of violence were not reported at the state. When they're reported, then typically a fine will follow.
So who reports that to? Is it the Phoenix Police Department or the individual that gets cited?
The owner of the business is required to report any acts of violence that occur at their location. Therefore, if there was an act of violence there, they're required to report it to the state.
Just quick comment. Councilman, any other questions? Councilman Nowakowski? Councilman DeCiccio?
Just a quick comment too. I mean, sometimes government does an overreach, and it's starting to feel like that's occurring here with this bar owner, this business owner in our city. And we want to see people be successful in our city and our community. And I'm hoping that that did not happen, but on paper alone, everything looks completely legitimate here. I just have concerns when there's that overreach. And if there is an overreach occurring, I would hope that some way, somehow, we look at this in the future, that it doesn't occur on everything that occurs with legitimate business owners. Again, on paper, he looks fine. And so I'm going to be supporting the fact that he should get his liquor license and opposing the motion. Thank you, Mayor. And I respect everything Danny's done in that district. Danny's done incredible work. This is just one of those times that we're probably not going to agree on just this one issue. Thank you.
All right, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, thank you to all my colleagues. Councilman DeCiccio, thank you. I'd like to ask Detective Washburn to come back down to give us more of an insight on why his recommendation to disapprove. I understand there are 9 acts of violence that were reported. Some of the, and this is part of the conversation that that puts me in a position to feel like I have to be supportive of staff recommendation. This is part of the investigation at Bull Shooters, coupled with a report that's already been filed at the new place. You know, I feel like I'm in a position to have to support staff here. So go ahead, Detective.
So what specifically would you like me to address?
The acts of violence. Can you walk us through a little bit about your investigation?
Okay. So any of the allegations that I'm making with a reference to the Phoenix reports, they have to be looked at more than just the title of, say, failure to protect. We have to drill down into each one of those reports and find out why it is I feel that way, that the management or staff there failed to protect. So several incidents that I could detail in the reports, one of which was where a physical fight started in the bar, and both parties were told to leave. One party was sent out the front door, the other party was sent out the back door, and guess what? They met in the middle and they had a fight. So in my mind, that's failure to protect. What should have been done was management staff should have kept one party back, sent the other party out, made sure they left, and turned around and said, okay, now that they're gone, you guys need to leave. So that's failure to protect in my book. Another incident, which I think is a little more dramatic, was there was an individual there that, according to the report, was a known person, was a regular customer. And he's known to get intoxicated and to cause problems. Well, he did just that one evening, and he started some problems with a group of MMA fighters who were there having a party. He was offensive to them, and he started causing problems. The management and staff recognized that a fight was getting ready to occur. They split everybody up, and then they asked the MMA fighters to leave. They should have asked the regular customer to leave. The MMA fighters left, and they did just what everyone thinks they did. They waited for the guy to leave, and they took care of him in the parking lot. That was management and staff's failure to protect, failure to make the right decision. They sided with a regular customer who, in their words, in the report, was known to have problems, and he ended up getting assaulted. I believe it was in that incident that he was assaulted to the degree that he had life-threatening injuries. There was, he had swelling on the brain, and he had been vomiting and had a headache for a couple of days. And if it wasn't for his girlfriend saying, we need to take you to the hospital, this isn't right, he could have died. So it's those kinds of details, getting down into all of these reports, that concerns me about what's happening at Bull Shooters that could happen at JJ's as well. To be fair, I ran a larger number of reports and looked at a larger number of reports that I could maybe use in this presentation, but I didn't because I didn't feel comfortable showing or being able to say that they originated there at Bull Shooters itself. They'll make the argument that these things happened in the parking lot, and I found reports that, yes, there were fights in the parking lot, but if that report didn't say that they started at Bull Shooters or something happened back at Bull Shooters, I discounted that report. So I have 8 reports that I feel comfortable tying back to Bull Shooters in one way or another. So, and I appreciate Councilman DeCiccio, I appreciate your concerns, and I want you to know that I understand the community's view, I understand the landlord's view, and from my perspective, I'm a fact finder, and I have, there's 2 lines that the commander has to look at when signing off on my reports. One of them says that I have found significant issues, and another one says that I have not found significant issues. So that's what gets signed off on my report. So when I find these types of issues, I feel that that's significant, and I need to bring them to you all, to this council, to make a decision, and it's nothing more than that. It's nothing personal against any applicant or any landowner or anything like that. So I appreciate your concerns, but I want you to know that's my perspective.
Does anyone have any questions for the detective?
Thank you for your work. All right, appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Nations, you're chomping at the bit to at least get a little extra time, and in light of the fact that we had the detective come back, I think it's only fair. Please keep it as short as possible, and any new or additional information, please.
Absolutely. 2 points. We're one of the largest liquor law trainers in the state of Arizona. Licensees are taught to break up a fight, send one out one side, give them a chance to clear, and send the other one out. They can't sit and babysit, and it's against the law for them to allow a person to remain on the premises once they became disorderly. So they have to get rid of them. Secondly, the acts of violence, the police department's required by law to submit the acts of violence to the Department of Liquor. These alleged failure to reports, if there had been reports submitted to the Department of Liquor, those reports, the investigators would have checked to see if there was an act of violence report submitted by the licensee. If there wasn't, they would hit them for failure to report. So one of 2 things happened. The police department failed to submit the reports, thinking they weren't important enough apparently, or secondly, the Department of Liquor did not substantiate those reports because we've never been charged with a failure to report an act of violence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nations. Any additional comments by members of this council? Councilman Gates, please. Oh, okay. Then Councilman Nowakowski, please. Go ahead, Councilman Gates.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Valenzuela and I have the opportunity to work on a lot of issues as we share a border, and I have great respect for you, Councilman Valenzuela, but I think just given the totality of this and also the fact that Councilwoman Williams and I both have been involved in the North Mountain redevelopment area for several years, and I'm very appreciative of those businesses that have been a part of that effort. I will not be supporting this particular motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilman Nowakowski.
So, Mayor, just for the detective, so some clarification.
Detective, if you can come back down to the mic.
So, Detective, when we give a citation to a bar owner, that's where it stops? We don't, does that say, is there a record that's delivered to the state liquor department, or there's no notification, or are depending on the individual that holds the state on the liquor license to report to the state that he got a citation? I'm kind of confused with that.
I want to make, Councilman Nowakowski, I want to make sure what citation you're referring to. The only citation that I can think of that he has been, or that the liquor license that has been issued is for JJ's for the incident in March reference the management on duty and intoxicated.
Well,
is that what you're referring to? Or?
Just generally, so if we actually give a citation out to a establishment that has a liquor license, do we report that to the state liquors department, or?
Okay. When police officers make a report in Phoenix, in the PACE system, in the report system, there's a spot to mark yes or no if liquor was sold or served. When that gets marked yes, it automatically gets forwarded over. It gets filtered through staff and then gets forwarded over to the liquor department.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Warren?
Thank you. Appreciate your presentation very much. I have a question, sorry. And your description of your role as a fact finder. I appreciate that. What's unusual in this case is usually we have a presentation like yours, and then we have the applicant, and oftentimes, don't want to speak for my colleagues, but it seems the applicant's presentation seems to validate the disapproval of the police department. That's usually the way it goes. In this case, you know, this is frankly was a little more balanced, and I'm just curious. So this came up in an issue in my district in Desert Ridge. So it sounded like in the case it was in my area, it was the manager. It sounded like who had an issue. So what happened with the manager who was drunk or allegedly drunk or inebriated or whatever on duty? I mean, are they still working there? Because in the case in my district, they had removed that person, and so that seemed like they made the change. They did what they needed to do. Is that person still there? It looks like maybe Randy Nations wants to. And the second thing is, it sounds like all the incidents you're describing, it sounds like they're saying those were simply allegations as opposed to actual fact. I don't know how else to phrase it. How would you characterize that? He's saying they didn't get cited by the liquor board, so.
Okay, yes, that's okay. So first of all, your first question is the manager still an employee? It's my understanding that the management is still an employee. He's also present here today watching this presentation. Okay. Second of all, they were not cited. That is correct. They were not cited, and I cannot speak to why they were not cited as far as acts of violence or failure to report. That's a question that the liquor department would have to answer. So what the liquor department, for your clarification, what the liquor department is looking for is if somebody on scene called 911 while the fight is in progress, that satisfies the liquor department's requirement to report the violence. The cases that I'm concerned about in here is that didn't happen. A fight happened, and then people left. So I'm concerned that nobody on staff called 911 when they should have. So that's part of my concern.
But isn't that what the liquor, sorry, Mr. Mayor, so isn't that what the liquor board looks at, whether someone called? I thought that was one of their.
Yeah, my understanding is that as long as someone in staff calls 911,
I'm sorry, I was interpreting your comments as saying nobody called, and that was your complaint.
Nobody from staff called would be what I would.
But the liquor board thinks that somebody did?
So what the liquor board is looking for, you can report of act of violence in two ways. Let's say there's a fight there and everybody leaves before you have a chance to do anything about it. No, police aren't called or anything like that. They still are required to report it. So an employee can report within 7 days to the liquor department that there was a fight that occurred. So that's one way to report it. Another way is while the fight is in progress is to call 911. They also consider that as reporting the act of violence. And then any police report that comes from that is acceptable.
So your complaint is that they didn't call while it was happening?
Either 911 or file a report afterwards, because some of these incidents were reported after the fact by the victims.
Okay.
So 911, nobody called 911 at the time, but afterwards, victims called and said, I've got a brain injury, and that we need to report where it happened and why it happened.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments or questions by members of this council?
I will just reiterate that I am supporting staff recommendation. The violence that has been documented from, I'll call him the fact finder, the detective, the serious injuries that have been taking place And now let's just keep in mind, just a few weeks ago, I was in this position thinking that, again, there's been no issues with the neighborhood groups there at Metro Center, and no one from the neighborhood groups in District 5 have had any issues. Although there were no issues because there really wasn't. This place was closed down for a little bit. But just realizing that the Arizona Department of Liquor also dropped in, not Detective Washburn, but the Arizona Department of Liquor dropped into JJ's Liquor, or JJ's Bar and Grill, while we're still in the temporary permitting period. That's cause for concern for me, and I'm going to support staff recommendation here.
Okay, so thank you very much, Vice Mayor. So the recommendation from the Vice Mayor is to make a recommendation of denial based upon the Phoenix Police Department's review, investigation, and report. We have a second on that motion. I do want to note that this body, the Phoenix City Council, is only a recommending body to the state liquor board. So the decision about whether JJ's will receive a liquor license won't be decided here today. Inevitably has to go before the state liquor board. I will be supporting the Vice Mayor in his district on his recommendation. It seems that there are very complicated issues in this case, and the appropriate body to do that, take witness testimony, et cetera, would be through the state liquor board. We're not in a capacity to do that, and in this case, I believe that we should follow the recommendation of our Phoenix Police Department, err on that side, as these issues are fully vetted at the state liquor board. So the motion is for a denial of this license. There's a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
No.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
No.
Nowakowski.
No.
Pastor. Waring.
No.
Williams.
No.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yeah, so the motion fails on a 5-4 vote. Now we have no recommendation on this license. Does someone wish to put a different recommendation on the table as it relates to this liquor license?
I would move moving this forward with approval.
All right, so we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second on a motion to approve this liquor license?
Yeah, second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments on that motion?
Okay, can I ask a procedural question?
Councilman Waring, you may ask a procedural question.
Stop me if this is somehow. So what happens if this fails?
Well, then the third option would be no recommendation. Someone could put a motion on this.
We could have a third vote. Okay, I just want to make sure.
Mayor, Councilman Waring, that's correct. You could have a third vote.
Or you could substitute, whatever you want to do, whatever your pleasure is. If you think it's
motion be better. I mean, just as a no recommendation.
What's that?
Would a no recommend? I'm asking the maker of the motion. If
Delta, the question's yours.
No recommendation would be better.
I have the feeling that this is not going to pass for approval, so yeah. I would make the motion and change that to no recommendation.
Second. Or I'm good with that.
Okay, so the maker of the motion has changed the motion from support to no recommendation. We have a second. What is the legal implication of that in terms of how it triggers a state liquor board hearing?
Mayor, members of the council, a no recommendation means the city is silent and the department does not have to set a hearing. They can just approve it if there's no other issues at the state level.
A motion to disapprove would create a full liquor board hearing, and a motion to support would then not automatically trigger the hearing. They could obviously have one if they wanted to have one.
A motion to disapprove from the city council would trigger a hearing at the state level, and a motion to approve would not trigger a hearing at the state level unless there was an issue at the state level.
Okay, so a motion for no recommendation
For no recommendation.
Leaves that decision up to the state liquor board as to whether or not they want a hearing on this issue.
Correct.
Councilman Waring?
Thank you. So basically, in layman's terms, it would go to people who focus on these issues all the time. They would look at the same information that we just heard, maybe other stuff too, but this, and they would decide whether a hearing is warranted or not. Is
Mayor,
that a fair
members of the
assessment?
council, Councilman Waring, they would not get any of the reports of ours necessarily. They just get an order of approval from the city council, or sorry, if it was a no recommendation.
Yeah, I'm talking no recommendation.
An order saying no recommendation, and then any investigation that they've done is what they look at.
I'm sorry, what was that last? You said it kind of fast. I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I'm the last one to complain about that, so I apologize for that too.
Sorry about that. They don't necessarily have to look at any of the investigation that's happened at
But they will see no recommendation, which is unusual. I think it's only 7% where we deny. I don't know how many that we give no recommendation one way or the other. I know we did that in the situation that I referenced in my district, which I thought was fair, because then they can look at that. That should be a red flag for them, or at least, hey, there was more to the story here. They could look at the information that's been provided, and then they can determine. And this is what they do all day long, correct?
They could choose to look at information or not. Mm-hmm.
Right. I think I'm comfortable with that. Thank you.
Yeah, the issue is that when we deny, then at least the reasons for the denial, not just the denial, but the reason for the denial are obviously put into the public record and made part of that for purposes of the hearing. On a no recommendation, that's not the case. We're simply silent on the underlying liquor license. Okay, so the motion is for no recommendation. There is a second. Any additional questions, procedural or otherwise? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Can I explain my vote very quickly?
May.
Thank you. I appreciate it. People may say, well, you were not going to vote for approval or disapproval. The reason was because this is what we did in my district, and I thought that was fair. Obviously, we have a police officer on one side, very credible, saying some things, but I got a couple councilmen and women vouching for this person, which is a little unusual in one of these cases. And I thought the applicant presented pretty well in his own defense. So I do think it's fair for the liquor board to decide. They're actually the court of this anyway, not us. So I think that's appropriate, and that's why I was happy that this is the result that was achieved. Thank you.
Yes. 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 Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
I'll also explain my vote. There was one council member who advocated for this to be turned down, and it's the sitting councilman of District 5, first of all. Secondly, it doesn't change the facts of this case, and I, in good faith, cannot support even a no recommendation based on the facts that Detective Washburn, a credible source, and frankly, the Arizona Department of Liquor, who dropped in to JJ's, and I'm disappointed, frankly. I am disappointed, but nonetheless, this council doesn't decide who gets the liquor license at the end of the day. I will be a no vote for this particular motion.
Mayor Stanton.
No, so the motion for no recommendation passes on a 7-2 vote. The next item on the agenda is item number 33. And it looks like there is 33 and 34 are both to be continued May 27th. Can they take it on a single motion? Oh, continue from. I apologize. Okay, I'm sorry. So item number 33 is the proposed contract as it relates to automotive upholstery services. I do have a motion on item number 33.
Motion to approve item 33.
We have a motion and a second on item 33. Do we have cards on item number 33? We have no cards on item number 33. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes unanimously. Item number 34 is also continued from May 27th concerning elevator and escalator inspections in the city of Phoenix. Can I get a motion on item number 34?
Motion to approve item 34.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have a card here from Adam Goldstein. Opposed to the staff recommendation. In favor, not wishing to speak, or available to speak if necessary, Stan Swanson Schindler. In favor, available to speak, Tina Boston Schindler. And then also same disposition, Alex Capiato Schindler. So you can decide after the testimony whether you want to provide testimony. Mr. Goldstein, up to 2 minutes.
Hi, council members, Mr. Mayor. Nothing to add from what Mr. Blevins was brought up on the meeting of May 27th. Just wanted to make myself available if there were any questions that originated from the email that was submitted by Mr. Blevins per the request of Councilman DiTiccio.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Goldstein? Okay. Any of the individuals that were available to speak but not wishing to speak unless necessary, did you wish to speak? Tina, Alex, or Stan? Okay, so the motion is in favor of the staff recommendation. There is a second. Any comments or questions from this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Yes. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes unanimously. Next item is 35. This was continued from June 3rd. This is recommendation to continue the item. Okay, Vice Mayor, do we have a motion to continue the item?
Which date?
July 1st.
Motion to continue item 35 to July 1st.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Mr. Simpson, you're opposed to the item. What's on the table right now is a recommendation to continue the item. Are you okay with the continuance? Mike Simpson? Okay, thank you very much. So we'll come back on July 1st and we'll deal with the, assuming the vote passes, we'll deal with the underlying issue. Motion to continue to July 1st, a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item on is item number 36. We're withdrawing or continuing it?
Mayor.
What's your recommendation, Mr. Manager?
Mayor, I have recommended and have actually withdrawn the item from the agenda.
Okay, so we get a motion.
Don't need it.
Oh, okay. Councilman C, do you want to make comments on that?
Yeah, just one, and more along the lines of, I would just want to ask staff, they don't have to answer it now, so I would normally brief you ahead of time, so I didn't want to do that. But I want to find out, too, if this individual is operating his business and has property on what you would consider to be the right-of-way. Are they on the streets, or where are they? And whether or not that is legal, whether or not an individual can have their property on the right-of-way. Whether it's a sidewalk or a street. I don't believe that it is legal, but that's something I'd like staff to look into. The other, just for the audience to know what this is, and this was through a threat of a lawsuit from the Goldwater Institute, the City of Phoenix was going to give, literally, I would consider to be a donation or monies to $125,000 to a private business. That's not legal in the state of Arizona. I'm glad that we're withdrawing this, but it's had to go through an entire process for us to get there. It wasn't until that there was a threat of a lawsuit protecting the taxpayers that the City of Phoenix literally withdrew this item. It was not until then. And I think it's inappropriate. I don't think that the City of Phoenix should have ever, I feel bad for the business owner because they were promised $125,000. I feel bad for them. But at the end of the day, you cannot give taxpayer money to private businesses. You cannot do that, and that's what was going to occur here. Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to be happily supportive of the withdrawal.
Thank you very much, Councilman DeCiccio. I wanted to give City Manager an opportunity to clarify what the intent of the why they requested the withdrawal today.
Thank you, Mayor. The reason for withdrawing the item is late on Monday. I was sent an email letter and did not get a chance to read it until Tuesday morning with extensive questions from, as Mr. DeCiccio mentioned, Goldwater. So in order for us to have adequate time to respond to the questions that were raised, we asked to withdraw this item so that we can give a thorough response to them and to the City Council. And we do believe that this is lawful, and we will be returning with this item probably in August or September, but we need the time to respond to the questions raised of us.
But my understanding is that they wanted, the legal department wanted an appropriate time to appropriately respond to the information or the statements made by Goldwater out of respect for Goldwater, but the intent is to do that and bring this item back before this City Council. All right, any other comments or questions by members of this council? All right, it's withdrawn, right? So there's no action needed? Okay. Next item on the agenda is ordinance, resolutions, and new business. Mr. City Clerk, Mr. Vice Mayor, Are we ready for a omnibus motion on ordinances, resolutions, and new business?
We're ready.
We'll see.
Yep.
No.
Motion to approve items 37 through 128, except the following items: 39, 40, 58, 59, 74, 85, 88, 89, 99, 100, 111, and 124, and excluding these items for public comment. 37, 39, 44, 46, 72, 79, 82, 89, 103, 110, 113, and 116.
All right, so we have an omnibus motion. We have a second. Any questions or comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, motion passes. Next item, Vice Mayor.
Stand by, Mayor.
37.
Motion to approve item 37.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Vint, you want to talk about 37A, B, C, D, and F. Up to 2 minutes of testimony.
Yes, I am Pat Vint again and again. This is getting to be a disaster. You've got an item here, 37, that takes the alphabet all the way through plus 3 more times, A, B. The first 3 items, A, B, and C, is to give for a design review of $30,000 total, $10,000 on each one in the street transportation department. In my neighborhood, what they done to my street, nobody even looked at the design review. Then you've got to go to F. Here's $500,000 that a city made a major mistake someplace because Waters and Kraus, trustees for the fund for liability on bodily injury settlement. This proves beyond any doubt that about 3 weeks ago you came up and passed out this sheet of paper here, guidelines for speaking at city council meetings. You know, you have no respect for citizens, and to prove that, not too long ago, at the top of the chain of command in the city of Phoenix.
All right, Mr. Vint, you got to stay on the item. The
I'm
item
on
is
the
37,
item.
payment ordinance.
I'm on the item, damn it. I'm telling you now, you better start listening because you don't know how to listen. You took the citizens completely off of the top of the
Mr.
chain
Vint,
of command.
the item is 37, the payment ordinance. All right, thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Vint, very much. Thank you, Mr. Vint. We have a motion in favor of item 37. We have a second. Are there, Mr. Vint? We've got to move on with the agenda. Thank you very much. All right, so item. Thank you very much, Mr. Vint. So item 37, there's a motion. We have a second. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item, Vice Mayor.
Mayor, I want to make a motion to suspend the rules to take items out of order, items 88, 89, and 110.
88, 89, 110.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion to suspend the rules to take 88, 89, and 110 out of order. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 88 is the proposed implementation of the 2015-16 airline rates and charges program. City Clerk, would you please read the title?
Item 88, Ordinance G6039, an ordinance amending Section 4-173B, Section 4-174A and B, and Section 4-179B of the Phoenix City Code to implement the 2015-2016 rates and charges program at Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport effective July 1st, 2015, and making some conforming changes.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have a motion on item number 88?
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion, we have a second. Are there any cards on item number 88? We have Tammy Fisher, our Aviation Director, and Paul Blue, Deputy City Manager overseeing aviation, who are here at the table. Are there any comments or questions for our professional city staff who are here on item number 88? All right, roll call.
Mayor, just a quick
Councilman
question.
DeCiccio, jump right in.
My understanding, just want to make sure I get this on the record, this is actually a net decrease of about 0.1%, correct?
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, yes.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure they got in the record.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Councilman Waring.
It's a net decrease, but it includes money related to noise abatement. Can you just say how much?
Mayor, Councilman Waring, there is about a little over $2 million of noise abatement money in this year's budget. It's offset by savings in other areas in the total billings.
It's still a net savings. The bill to the airline overall goes down by about $100,000.
That's correct,
But
Councilman.
$2.7 million of this total is for noise abatement, for those who have been concerned about that.
That's correct.
Those are accurate. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any additional comments or questions by members of this council? Councilman Gallego.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to explain my vote on this. I'm going to be voting no on this fee decrease right now. We've recently learned that airlines are very concerned about emissions, and we certainly could have done more environmental projects here if that was what they wanted to do and allowed people to be able to sleep at night. And I also represent the area around the airport and would like us to look harder at whether we have all the costs accounted for as we sunset the VARS program to be able to move forward with addressing the promises made to that community.
Thank you very much, Councilman Gallego. Any other additional comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
No.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
No.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yeah, so the motion passes 7-2. Next item on the agenda is item number 89, which is the proposed parking management services at Sky Harbor Airport. Councilman Gallego, do you have a motion?
I do. Mayor, this is a motion related to the parking management at Sky Harbor Airport, and we have implemented a lot of different changes at the airport and are in the process of implementing new ones. And we've also learned a lot from the work in downtown led by Councilman Nowakowski about parking management. And so instead of extending for 5 years, I would like to move that we extend for 1 year and rebid the RFP for airport parking management.
I'd like to second that, Mayor.
We have a motion. We have a couple seconds. Councilman Williams, you have a question on this item?
I do. If this is going to go back out for RFP, is 1 year sufficient time? Because this is
Mayor,
a very large contract.
Mayor, Councilwoman Williams, this would take some time to prepare the procurement documents, which would be procured under the new code. We wouldn't be able to get back to the council until the fall, and then it would take approximately 9 to 12 months to conduct outreach and a transparent competitive procurement, review proposals. More time could be necessary if there was an appeal or a protest and appeal process. So my recommendation would be at least a 1 year extension with a month to month after that to allow for transition in case the procurement process doesn't go perfectly smooth.
So I would ask the maker of the motion if she would include that.
That would be fine. Would you like to, do I need to restate it, or is that?
And I agree as the second.
Could I provide a comment on that too?
Just a moment. I want to make sure. Yeah, is the motion proper at this point?
Mayor, yes, it is. The motion, because it's the maker of the motion that agreed to the friendly amendment.
Okay, so the motion is to proceed as suggested by staff to allow for the appropriate amount of time for procurement. The second agrees to that. I have a card here, Councilman DeCiccio. You want to speak first, or you want me to take the card?
Card's fine.
Mr. Burton, Steve Burton, you wanted to speak if necessary. It's up to you whether you want to speak on this proposal. Still here? Okay. Oh. I think he's coming around. Okay.
Oh, in the meantime, Mayor,
maybe I could just make a quick comment on that, and for the individuals that made the motion on that too.
Please.
If you don't have some sort of deadline of when they need to come back to us and a schedule in place, you may want to also ask for a timeline from staff of when they're going to do those things, so that way these months can turn into years to years. So the idea would be to bring it back. If the idea is to bring this forward and to make sure it gets bid out, then you may want to put some timelines in there as you move forward on this, just as a thought.
I thank you very much for the suggestion. Mr. Burton, do you have testimony?
Yes, I'm
Please.
Steve Burton, President of Ace Parking, Mayor, council members. I'm not necessarily in favor of the one-year extension, considering I was here looking for a 5-year extension. I'll do whatever this council asks for. I think our performance speaks for itself at the airport. If you want to put it out to bid early, that's fine. But I think staff and airport will tell you it's a very expensive process to go through. But I would ask that you don't vote for a one-year renewal month to month and reconsider the 5-year option. Thank you.
I thank you very much, Mr. Burton, for that testimony. Any comments or questions for Mr. Burton? Okay, so we have a motion. We have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates. Nowakowski.
Yes.
You get Gates?
No?
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
No.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so that item passes on a 7-2 vote. Next item is item number 110. Do we have a motion on item number 110?
Motion to approve item 110.
We have a motion on item number 110.
Second.
And we have a second on item number 110. Ms. Dee Dee Barker, you have up to 2 minutes to provide testimony on item number 110.
Right. Thank you, Mayor. This is on modernization at T3 Sky Harbor. And when I initially read this, I was wondering, apparently we have a contract that we will make amendments of $11 million. And so we're up to now $40 million on that. Then we had another contract in 2014 for $300,000. So it's $300,000 million. Am I understanding this right? And are we just giving amendments that aren't being competitively bid?
All right, that's a fair question, Mr. Blue or Ms. Fisher. As shortly as possible, you provide explanation as to the nature of this very complicated contract.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a design-build contract that was competitively procured on a qualifications-based selection process through the Street Transportation Department. These are amendments to the contract to complete the project. So it is competitively bid. Each element of the project that gets completed, whether it's construction or design, all subcontracts are also competitively bid.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have a motion in favor of the proposal on 110. We have a second. Any comments or questions by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, Vice Mayor?
Have to read the title.
What number, 39?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to jump back to item 39 on the agenda, which is a proposed amendment to our procurement code, excuse me. Mr. City Clerk, would you please read the title?
Item 39, ordinance G6038, an ordinance amending subsections 43-10C and 43-11A and B of Chapter 43 of the City Code to revise the contract authorization amount and informal competitive threshold from $35,000 to $50,000.
Vice Mayor?
Motion to approve item 39.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion.
Mayor.
We have a second. I think, Councilman Gates, did you have comments?
Yeah.
Right on that, and then I'll go to Councilman DeCiccio.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be supporting this item. This issue of procurement reform is something actually that Councilman Waring has been talking about for many years, and I want to thank him for his leadership on this issue, especially in our subcommittee. This is a further tweaking on this issue, which is a good one. It's going to improve and increase the transparency, and it's also going to strengthen the ability of local businesses to get more contracts at the City of Phoenix. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilman Gates. Councilman DeCiccio?
Just a question to staff, and didn't get a chance to ask this question earlier, but so now this basically deals with the bidding of services or contracts that staff is allowed to basically do. It's going to go up from 35,000 to 50,000. Is that correct? So now staff will have the ability
I'll turn it to Smith City Manager. You want to answer that, or have our Finance Director answer that question?
Yes, Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Councilman DeCiccio, when we reformed the procurement code earlier, we had moved the threshold from 50,000 contracting level down to 35,000. We think that it should go back to 50,000 in order to make it consistent with our small business enterprise program. Mr. Neil Young, our Chief Financial Officer, who, by the way, this is his last meeting with us before he leaves, and staff have been working on this.
He has a big smile on his face.
Yeah. He looks more relaxed than I've ever seen.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, what we're moving towards is an approval process for our payment ordinance. So today, we often see payment ordinance activity after something has been purchased.
Right.
As we move forward in e-procurement, we will be seeking authority for purchases above $8,600 before we enter into any agreements or make any purchases. So council will still continue to get to see those purchases between $8,600 and $50,000.
Okay.
Likewise, anything above $50,000 would require council approval. And so the council would have the opportunity to see things that are on the payment ordinance in advance and would continue to see all of the above $50,000 formal procurement spend. So overall, council will get to see the vast majority of expenditures, and at the same time, this will improve our local small business enterprise efforts and make sure it is aligned with council direction from March of 2012.
I like the fact that we're going to be doing the outreach to the small business owner. I get that. But the question I've got then does this give staff the ability to approve these contracts up to $50,000, seeing them on our end and being the ones that are financially responsible with them are two different things. I like the lower amount because then it makes us responsible for those dollars. And so the question I've got then is moving it from 35 to 50,000, does that give staff that much discretion then to be able to approve these contracts without coming to us first?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, the intent would be to obtain your procurement authority, your approval of council prior to any actual procurement or contract. So what could be approved by a department would increase to $50,000, but payment authority through the payment ordinance would have to be obtained in advance.
So they would need our approvals first.
Correct.
In order to be able to do that.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I didn't even know. All right, thank you very much, Councilman. Any other comments or questions by this council? I'll certainly be supporting this very important improvement to our procurement code. Clarifying that $50,000 amount along with e-procurement is really going to kickstart our efforts to support local business. We voted on that 3.5 years ago to kickstart that process, but because of the e-procurement system didn't allow us to collect the data on our small locally owned business, we had to go through a vendor. We're going to be do that now through our own computer system, and that $50,000 threshold is going to be critical so we can get more and more resources into the hands of locally owned business. So this improvements to our procurement code has many, many advantages, not the least of which is avoiding those awkward votes where people have to vote sometimes against payment ordinances for work that's already been done. That was a fair criticism. We're going to, I think, as much as possible, improve that system. Won't be able to do it every single time because occasionally there's going to be emergency procurements, but to the best of staff's ability to bring those in advance so we can have discussions and debates over it before the work is actually done. Councilman Gates, you have anything else? Okay. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, this item passes unanimously. Next item is item 40. Do we have a motion on item number 40? Ordinance regarding furniture services. Ordinance correction regarding furniture services. Do we have a motion on item number 40?
Motion to approve item 40.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Councilman Waring, any comments?
No.
Any other comments by the council? Any cards on this item? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. I did make a mistake on the previous item, item number 39. Ms. Rogers, you had submitted a card on item number 39. I owe you an apology, but would you like the opportunity to speak on the item now? All right, I apologize for that. That certainly was my mistake. Next item on the agenda is, what is the next item on the agenda? 44. Item 44 is the next item on the agenda. Item number 44 is purchase of property and casualty insurance policies for the City of Phoenix. The Vice Mayor, I think, will be appearing telephonically, and so Mayor will be acting as the Vice Mayor for the remainder of the meeting. Do we have a motion on item number 44?
Move approval item 44.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Barker?
Thank you, Mayor Stanton, City Council, Diane Barker, District 7. And when I read this, I thought, aha, I've seen that paragraph before, but it's been some years ago when I didn't have, I didn't have the knowledge I have, and I didn't have Greta to answer questions. But this is Marsh USA. I remember when Jack Tevlin recommended this for the City of Phoenix, and it was $8 million at the time. Then I saw similar $8 million over at RPTA and figured out, well, Rock Arnett's cousin works at Marsh USA, and so that may be where we're getting this, but I'm asking for specificity. The flat fee for brokerage services that is paid separately and was previously authorized by council. Now, on what date was that, and how much is it? And if this was competitively computed, was it 10 years ago, or was it just recently?
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Barker. I'm Mr. Manager, if you or someone else could answer those questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Financial Officer Neil Young and Marianne Vivian Withrow, our risk management manager in the Finance Department, can respond.
Thank you, Ed. We'll turn it right over to Mary. I think she has those details.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Yes, Marsh USA was selected through a competitive procurement in 2013. We did have, I believe, 3 proposers at that time, and they were the high-scoring and recommended proposer. They are the largest insurance brokerage firm in the world. So they are the 800-pound gorilla, but we did do a competitive process and had very competitive bids. They were successful. And as is noted in this, they have successfully procured insurance for us competitively this year, reducing our costs marginally by about $35,000, but in the aggregate, it's a much larger reduction because we're receiving additional insurance. We're getting cyber coverage, which is a very important and big ticket item at this point, and we're also getting enhanced property coverage. So if you net that out, we're saving several $100,000 this year due to the competitive brokerage work that is done by Marsh.
Thank you very much. Ms. Barker, you have a follow-up question?
I still have the question wasn't answered. What is the flat fee that was authorized by the council, because they don't receive any commissions or compensations but that flat fee. How much was it? Is it now, this was authorized by the council after 2013, or are we going back years ago on this? What's this about? Be specific.
All right, I don't know if you have any additional information or you feel like you've answered the question. It's up to you, but if you want to provide additional information, we'll take
Mayor,
it.
members of the council, I don't have the exact numbers, but those numbers were part of the procurement. So the fee schedule was submitted as part of the procurement, and the fee schedules were evaluated, and Marsh was selected at the time.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms.
Was
Barker.
it authorized by the council?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barker. Mr. City Manager, you want to answer that question? I apologize.
The answer is yes.
Can you give me the date, please?
I don't know if you can provide a date. I don't know if you can provide a date off the top of your head. I think the question is whether it met the legal threshold of being approved by this council.
I believe the procurement was done in 2013, but I can come back with an exact date.
All right, why don't you provide Ms. Barker, to the best of your ability, that information either by the end of the day, or I guess is that past that day, first thing tomorrow, then please.
We will.
Thank you very much. We have a motion in favor of 44. We have a second. Comments by this council. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item, I believe, is 46. Is that right?
Item 46.
I'm thrilled we've added cyber coverage. That was an exciting step forward, so congratulations on that.
All right, we have a motion on 46. Did we get a second? We need a second on 46. We have a second on 46. Do we have any cards on 46? Louis Schmidt, did you provide testimony if he's still there? Louis? You're here. Good. Testimony on item 46, retiree health care marketplace.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Louis Schmidt, President, Aspen Local 2334. This item 46 is about trying to find some savings for the retirees. You know, retirement security is something that's important for everybody, but not only retirement security, but also health care costs for retirees. That's affecting the entire community. So the city is looking for options to try to save the retirees, you know, some money, which is a good deal. But I just want to throw some caution to the city as we move forward. As we know, the average pension for the public sector employee here in the city of Phoenix is about $22,000. And you look at the current cost for the retirees insurance, it's over $1,800 to almost $2,000 a month. So do the math yourself and you'll see that most of the employees are making the decision to either, you know, they have to delay their retirement because they can't afford it. So it is a good option to go, you know, look for some savings out there in the marketplace. But I just think that we should caution that, you know, in the route that we're going, we should also, you know, maybe add some type of amendment to this, whatever motion is made, that in case this isn't working out, that this be brought back to the City Council in case we have to revert back to the current system that the retirees are on. So that's just all I wanted to add, is that retirement security is important for everybody, but also having, you know, because as retirees, you live on a fixed income, and, you know, being able to retire or have insurance for your family shouldn't be a choice that we're making, but we are making it. Like Mr. Neil Young, you know, he has a smile on his face because he's retiring. Well, I want all the retirees to be able to have a smile on their face when they retire from their public service. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, I have a question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schmidt. Councilman Williams?
I want to ask the city manager, many of the retirees, especially ones who have been retired for a while, I think are going to be very concerned about this and have many, many questions. I know that you have said, okay, we'll have somebody, we're hiring someone that can sit down. Will you go not only have them invited in or supply written information, but would you hold meetings in the community where they can come, you can go through the process, you can answer their questions, might have to do it a couple times. I'm just real concerned.
Mayor, Councilman Williams, the short answer to that is yes, we will. Our Assistant HR Director, Mary Kyle, who is our benefits strategist for the city, supervises that group, and she can talk about what their strategies are to do outreach with our retirees.
Mayor, Councilman Williams, as part of this process, it would include extensive education for our retirees out in community centers. And I think one of the things that we built into this RFP proposal is that we think that there's a minimum of 10 of those meetings that would be required for our retirees, where we would have staff from the benefits office as well as the selected vendor that would go out and help us educate our retirees about what this process entails.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess I have one quick follow-up. Pardon me, Mayor. This is an RFP, I believe, to go out for services. And you plan to implement this January 1st?
That is correct.
So how quickly are you going to be able to process this and begin holding those meetings?
So, Mayor, Councilman Williams, so our recommendation is that we've selected Towers Watson through a competitive bid process to be the selected vendor for us. And as soon as this is approved by council, then we would begin the contract negotiations with them to finalize that contract. And we would start the education campaign with our retirees in the early part of the summer.
And do you have a list of all the retirees so that you can ship them a notice?
Absolutely, because we deal with most of the retirees that we have today.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much. Councilman Nowakowski?
Mayor, we talked about this in our subcommittee meeting today, and I had some concerns is that I was asking about major cities that actually have this as are practicing this type of marketplace, and it just concerns me that there's not any of the top 10 cities that actually have this implemented, and it's a new type of practice. A lot of our retirees, they came on board not for the pay, but for the benefits, and we need to really make sure that we take care of those individuals. We have a responsibility that they came on, and I want to make sure that our retirees are taken care of. So I had some questions of coming back and show me the best practices of the marketplace in different cities, and I'm concerned about this right now. The other thing I'm concerned about is that we're going to actually implement this by January 1st. We just asked for a 1-year extension on the parking at the airport, and they were saying that it's just too quick. You can't actually implement an RFP within a year, and that we should go month to month. So this is, if I know how to add pretty well, this is probably within 7 months. So how is it that we're able to implement a RFP for such a large, we're talking about our retirees, and we're talking about over 7,000 people that might be affected by this, and we're talking about a parking situation at the airport that we know exactly how many stalls we have. And to me, it would seem a lot easier to implement an RFP at the airport than implementing a marketplace retirement health care plan for all the retirees, and reaching out to those individuals, making sure that they're educated and that they understand this process.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Nowakowski. I guess the difference here between this one and the parking one is the parking RFP has to be created and put out on the street and sorted through. We're at the other end of this RFP. We've done all that work, and now we have the recommended firm, Towers Watson, who will actually start tomorrow working on this. And our normal time to begin the next year's health care is in October and November of this year. So we have time for them to be ready to do the outreach they need to be all the way prepared through the summer and into the fall, so that in October, November, as they're enrolling people, they will have already done their education, and that will be happening. So the timing works in this because we have finished the RFP as opposed to the other one where they haven't even started yet.
Councilman, any additional questions? Please.
Mayor, I'm still confused about this. I'm going to be voting no on it. We just celebrated a milestone of saving $103 million, and that was really sacrifice from our employees, our unions, that back in 2009 we were in a deficit of about $277 million, and it was a sacrifice that people made. And now I believe that people look at their retirement, and especially when you talk about healthcare, their healthcare retirement is something very serious. And I would really like to make sure that individuals that have given their lives to the city of Phoenix and now that are retired, that we make sure that we take care of them, that we're not downgrading their health care, and that they're comfortable with it. And I'm not comfortable with it, so I'm not sure how individuals that are retired right now can really feel comfortable with this marketplace. It hasn't been tested out there in a large field. I don't want to be a testing ground for our retirees out there, so I'm just very concerned. There's a lot of red flags that I see in just this proposal, and I believe that we want to cut down the cost for health care for those retirees, but I want to make sure that's the wise and we're doing the right thing.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Any additional comments by members of the council? Councilwoman Pastor?
I have several questions. Has anybody spoken to the retirees regarding possible changes?
Mayor, Councilman Pastor, we started from the beginning working with COPRA, which is the City of Phoenix Retiree Association. They've actually had membership on the healthcare task force, and their membership participated in the selection process of the recommended proposer.
And then my second question is, by going to the marketplace, does this provide same options or better options, or?
Mayor, Councilman Pastor, so there are plan options out there that would be very similar to what our retirees have today through the city's health insurance plan, and that would be true for the pre-65 group as well as those that are Medicare eligible. So for example, if you are a Medicare eligible individual and you had the city's coverage today and you selected a Medicare Plan F through the marketplace, that would be coverage that would be very comparable to what the city has. And if you also coupled that with the most lucrative pharmacy plan that you could tie with that Medicare Part F plan, it would be coverage that's extremely comparable to the city. But one of the big differences there would be what you would pay in your premium costs. So for example, today if I'm a Medicare eligible individual and I'm somebody that gets a MERP subsidy, I'm paying in excess of $7,000 a year for that health insurance coverage. If I were to go out to the exchange with that Medicare Part F plan and that most lucrative pharmacy plan, my premiums would drop to a little over $2,400 a year. So that's one of the things that when we did this RFP, we worked with to make sure that when we were doing this selection that they had plans and a variety of plans that were comparable to what the city has today in offering that coverage in the future. The other thing that you get through that exchange, because there are lots of different plan options out there, is that connection with a licensed benefit advisor who works as a concierge with the retiree to really help them pick that coverage that's tailored to their individual needs.
So is it possible then, say I don't want dental and I want whatever, there's regular health care and I'm trying to vision and I don't want dental. Is there a way that I could tailor my package or my health care that meets my needs?
Mayor, Councilman Pastor, there's absolutely a way to do that, and it involves things greater than just making that decision, do I want vision or do I want dental? It might be looking at things like what kind of health care do you access? How frequently do you access that health care? Do you want a lower premium because maybe you don't use it very often and you would rather just pay for those services when you go? So again, it is a very tailored opportunity that's identified for that retiree to really tailor things to their individual or their household needs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. Additional questions? Councilman Gates?
Thank you, Mayor. Put in a little plug for Channel 11. We had a good discussion of this issue this morning at our subcommittee, and encourage especially those retirees out there who'd like to see that full discussion to go to Channel 11 on demand and check out that discussion. Clearly, and I think Councilwoman Williams has raised important points as it relates to educating our retirees as to possible changes, but from the discussions that we've had previously, there's been a lot of interaction with our retirees. They've been at the table, and there are significant savings that can come from this approach, both to the city. And what are those? What are the savings that we anticipate if this change is made effective January 1, 2016?
Mayor, Councilman Gates, I think you have to look at that savings in two different ways. So if we were looking at some projected savings to the city, potentially the city could save $4 to $6 million by doing that. But I think the second part of this that you have to think about is that you have to think about the savings for that retiree member. So we have retirees today that are paying nearly $30,000 a year for health insurance. And some retirees don't even have a pension big enough to take that health care deduction out of. And so this really not only provides some savings for the city, but also can provide significant savings for our retiree members as well.
And Mayor, just to be clear, this item that we're being asked to vote on does not affect active employees in any way, right?
Councilman Gates, you're correct. This is only for retiree health care.
But we have had discussions in our subcommittee about the possibility of also having active employees in healthcare private marketplace. But that would be years off, and there will be a lot of discussion before we get to that point, right?
Mayor, Councilman Gates, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. And obviously we'll go through the healthcare task force as well for discussion. As it appropriately should. Councilman Waring, questions?
Thank you. So as Councilman Gates suggested, we had a conversation about this morning, but I've had several conversations with you, Mary, and also Ed Zerker about this. And we also had another, was it 2 months ago or a month ago? So we've had a couple in subcommittee about this, and it was at that meeting. So you talked about the savings, which I'm glad you brought that up, Bill, because we obviously need to save money at a time we're looking at budget deficits starting next year. But you also talked about specifically about the savings for the retirees. I believe I had asked the question before. Maybe it gets to a little bit to Councilwoman Pastor's point, maybe to Councilman Nowakowski's too. Is anybody going to get left hanging? Is there anybody who's not going to look at the covers that they have now and so forth? And I think the answer was basically no. You may have to pay a little more to keep a doctor, depending on how this works out, based on our discussion this morning, if we went with and I forget what's the jargon that was used. I think you know what I'm talking about. I just can't articulate it.
I do. So, Mayor, Councilman Waring, I think what you're asking is really more around a narrow network.
Yes.
And that's a possibility that we talked about for our active plans.
Yes.
And not
It's not. I know it's not for this, but there are definitely different ways that you can tailor this, as Councilman Pastor said. But we don't believe anybody's going to get left hanging, as Councilman Nowakowski said. I think on the retirees, and again, it's a couple months dated, but didn't you say that 95% of the retirees should see a significant decline? And of the 5% who might see an increase, the increase would be slight, less than they would otherwise expect as healthcare costs rise every year?
So, Councilman Waring, when we did some analysis to look at the potential savings for our retirees, if I remember correctly, it was between 95 and 99% of our retirees would see significant savings. Where there might be some differences might be in the pharmacy, because pharmacy in the Medicare eligible group is a little bit different, but that's something that we'll continue to work through with our retiree subcommittee as well as our healthcare task force about how we can solve for folks that might be impacted in the pharmacy in the Medicare eligible space.
And I think when you talked about increases, it was like $5 or $10, right? It wasn't increases like thousands of dollars. I don't want people to think some people are saving thousands and some people are spending more thousands. That's not the case, correct?
Councilman Waring, that is a correct statement. Yes, that if somebody had to pay more, it was an insignificant amount, but that was a very small percentage of people.
Right. I mean, it seems like a win. We don't get that many win-wins sitting in these chairs up here, and it seems like this one definitely had the potential to be a win-win. I think I had asked the city manager, how quickly could this be undone if it somehow went wrong? And the answer was a year. I think that was fair. So hopefully it won't come to that, but this is not a forever commitment that we would necessarily be making, but it does seem like a prudent one given our budget situation and the potential benefit for the retirees. I mean, the numbers you cited were pretty dramatic decreases. Wasn't there also, and again, as I said this morning, we've had several different briefings about this, so there's the retiree plan, the active plan. Sometimes I've asked for a chart to sort of break up which is which, because there's different components of each. But didn't you say that if you're a retiree right now, and let's say you have Blue Cross, then if your spouse was on your policy or your kids or whatever, they also had to be on Blue Cross, but that's not the case in this? Ed's nodding, so hopefully that's a good sign.
Councilman Waring, that is a true statement. So today, if I was a retiree and I had a spouse and children that I was covering through family coverage, and let's just assume that I pick a Blue Cross PPO plan, I have a Blue Cross PPO, and everybody that I'm covering under that family coverage has the same coverage as I do. But one of the nice things that you get in the flexibility of looking at a marketplace is that if I'm really tied to that Blue Cross plan, but my spouse wants an Aetna or a Humana or something completely different, he has the option of having something completely separate from what I do. So this offers additional choice and flexibility in what a retiree can do, if they have family coverage.
So more flexibility, more savings for the retiree, savings for the city, which we frankly desperately need.
Correct.
And it's not, like I said, a lifetime commitment. It's a year commitment. From what I'm taking away from this is this can be undone in a year, so it's basically year to year. I mean, for that level of risk, I think it's worth definitely doing this, and I just don't see a downside. So thank you for answering the questions. I appreciate it.
Mayor.
Councilman DeCiccio.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to make sure I'm clear with this. I mean, first of all, I do believe we have to reform our healthcare system here. If you look at this, it really just takes the city of Phoenix out of the healthcare business and basically allows the individuals to make their own choices of where they want to go in the marketplace, correct?
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, to a certain degree, it takes us out of the healthcare business, but I think you really have to think about looking at, that marketplace provider, through our recommended Towers Watson, is really you have to think about we're giving our retirees a soft landing, rather than to say you need to go out there and you need to navigate the universe to find your own health insurance coverage. When you're doing a marketplace provider like a Towers Watson out there, and you have that licensed benefit advisor concierge service where as a retiree you're connecting with that individual, you're talking about these are who my physicians are, these are the medications that I take, these are the hospital networks that I want to go to. They're really taking in all of that information from the retiree, running that through a set of analytics and coming back with a couple recommendations to say, based on all of this information that you gave me, these are the 2 or the 3 top plans that most closely match your needs, not only for what you're looking for today, but potentially to protect you in the future should your health change. So really, if you think about it, it is a soft landing for our retirees rather than just say, figure out your health insurance on your own.
Well, you're basically creating a voucher. It's the same debate that we've seen within the education system, is whether or not the money should follow whatever the individual wants to be able to take their children to. The other part of it, I mean, make no mistake about it, this is going to have and create the model for the current employees too. I mean, we can say it might not, it may, but really this is the model that the city of Phoenix is going to be moving toward. I think we need to do that. I mean, long term, in the viewing public that's listening to this, I think most of them, if they were to listen to it, they'd think, well, heck, I don't get a pension, and I don't get my health insurance taken care of when I'm retired either. So I think that there's also got to be a reality issue here with, especially the unions. They've got to realize that this is what's going to be coming forward. If not, we'll never get our fiscal house in order here at the city of Phoenix. And I am supportive. I have got some concerns about the expense of this. It's about $1.4 million to do it. I don't understand why it costs so much to do and create this model. It's not a model that hasn't been created before, and I'm sure it has something to do with some of the administrative part of it, but still it seems a little bit on the heavy side when it comes to expense. Why is it so expensive?
Mayor and Councilman DeCiccio, so part of that expenses in that $1.4 million is over a 5-year period. So there are some costs out there for some custom communication, especially in that first year, that are really key to the success of this plan. Making sure that retirees are well educated, that they've been communicated with, that they've had their questions answered on all of how this happens. The other component that goes along with this is a health reimbursement account. So how we give MERP today would go into a health reimbursement account, so there are some administrative fees for that as well.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, just some
Councilman Nowakowski, please.
Some clarification for those that are listening. If you happen to be a sworn officer or firefighter, you can opt out of this and go into the state's medical plan, right?
Mayor, Councilman Nowakowski, that is a correct statement. So it's really not any different than a public safety individual has today. Right. So if you retired today as a police officer or a firefighter, you could elect to take the city's health insurance coverage, or if that's not something that you want to do, you have the option to go to the state and have coverage through the state. Public safety members also get a subsidy from the public safety system as well. You're welcome.
Mayor, may I?
Councilman, please.
The packet mentions that there are already 62 public sector entities who are participating in this. Could you give an example of some with which we might be familiar?
Sure, Mayor, Councilman Gallego. So there are many different groups that are out there. The city of Colorado Springs, for example, moved their folks out there. Here in Arizona, APS moved their retirees to an exchange at the beginning of this year. There are some big education systems that are out there that are part of this. The state of Nevada, Emory University. So there are some big, public sector or quasi-public sector organizations that have moved to the exchange. In addition to that, there are many private sector firms that have moved their retirees to the exchange. So I want to make sure that you know that we're not necessarily pioneers in making this movement. CenturyLink, AT&T, other big organizations have moved their folks to the exchange. In addition, our recommended partner, Towers Watson, has operated an exchange in excess of 10 years and has 1.1 million members as part of their One Exchange platform.
Thank you. And I want to make sure I understood the comments about the narrow network and the savings for our retirees. So you said the substantial majority of our retirees would save with basically the same benefits. So it wouldn't be, the savings wouldn't be because they're losing benefits.
Right. Councilman Gallego, when you talk about ways to have savings in your health insurance plan, if you think about things as levers, obviously doing cost shifts like increasing co-pays and deductibles and co-insurance are one way to save costs in your plan, but also looking at maybe a narrower network of providers in the plan that are probably better performing, high performance physicians with better outcomes. That would be another way to have savings in your plan, but that's something that we're looking at for the active population and not the retirees that would be in the marketplace.
Wonderful. And then this looks like, Councilman Waring mentioned we could make changes in a year, but it looks like a 5-year vote. And I was wondering if the city manager and Councilman Gates would be comfortable if the fees subcommittee could look at this in a year and just check in? What if?
Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I appreciate Councilwoman Williams' comments that this will be a big change, and that's a subcommittee format is an area where some of our retirees are very comfortable with sharing their feedback, so that will give them an additional venue in addition to the regular meetings that city management holds with representatives of retirees. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councilman Pastor.
Will we have a telephone line where retirees can call if they're having issues with their network? Or what is the process if something is not correct?
Mayor, Councilman Pastor, so there is that advocacy service that's included with that. So we would have our own number dedicated to City of Phoenix retirees that you could call in not only when you're ready to do your enrollment and get some help through that concierge service, but if you had problems with a provider or a bill, or you just had questions, you have the ability to call that same phone number and get advocacy services that can help you with those kinds of things as well.
One of my concerns, well, it's a big concern in the sense of that the insurance that we have now, or the insurance that the retirees have now, will not cost them, or shift of cost will not go to them in the sense of what the plan that we have now once we go to the marketplace. And what I'm hearing is that the different type of plans, I don't know how many different type of plans we have, but I'm hearing that there will be savings. They can duplicate the same plan, but we'll have savings. Where is the savings due to the large network of number of people in the marketplace, or how? I think the general public needs to understand that, and the retirees need to understand it, as if where the savings is going to be.
I think the major savings to the retiree comes from the fact that today they're in a pool of 7,000 or so.
Today they're in a pool of about 4,000.
4,000, and they'll be moving to a pool of 1.1 million.
Okay.
Mary, anything else to add there?
No, I think you covered that.
Okay, and we do have the opportunity, if this does not land the way we want it to land, then we have the ability to go back.
Just as we're doing today, we would be able to do in a year, and we plan to go back to the Finance Efficiency Subcommittee regularly.
And we will have the financial dollars to do that?
Well, the majority, yes.
If we choose to go back?
So retirees pay 100% of their costs, and the savings to the city comes from some of the contributions we're making. We would have to find that, yes.
So,
to go back, yes. There would be a cost to us to go back. We would have to identify that at the time.
okay, let me think this through.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments or questions? Councilman Waring, please.
Yes. So one thing I neglected to ask during the other meetings is, so customer service, effectively, is how this is being framed. Would it be any different than what's available now? I mean, it might be different, but is it going to be more onerous to get through to somebody to make changes or anything, or it should be just basically the same kind of setup?
Councilman Waring, it actually would be better probably moving to an exchange. If you think about, we have about 7,000 retirees total at the City of Phoenix right now, or a little over 7,000. And if you think I have about 7 benefits analysts that work as part of the benefits office that service all of those retirees, whether or not they take our health insurance coverage. Some might only take dental insurance, some might only have medical insurance. So if you think about 7 people handling that entire population, but now moving to an exchange where you have a dedicated call center, you have dedicated customer service people, advocates that can handle those calls, and during a greater customer service window, retirees could actually probably get better service in the future than what they get from our internal staff.
So right now they're calling us, but in the future they'll be calling the marketplace folks.
They'll be calling us and the marketplace.
Okay, so they'll have the option. I guess that's what I was getting. Okay, so they will have the option to do either. So they can have the same that they have right now, or they could have, which might arguably be better, calling these other folks.
Councilman Waring, that is a correct statement. Okay. We take thousands of calls every year from retirees, and we still would help our retirees and help guide them to the most appropriate place to get the service and the care that they need.
So they don't need to be concerned that they're not going to get help that they're getting right now?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So we have a motion. Oh, Councilman, please.
When will we see the savings?
The savings would begin in January of 16. So for a half year of this current fiscal year, and then continue through into the entire 16-17 year.
So with, I guess, what may I suggest that just in case this does not happen the way we want it to happen, that we have that money available to go back to the old system?
That's always a possibility. I mean, it's a trade-off in the end, but.
Right, yeah. But I think we need to be cautious and look at that, and not be here next year, sitting here and saying, okay, it didn't happen the way we wanted it to happen, and then say we have no money to go back.
Understood.
All right, any additional comments or questions? All right, so you have a motion in favor of the contract for retiree health care marketplace. We have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
I want to explain my vote.
Please.
Mayor, I'm going to vote yes because it's coming back to us, and the way that Councilmember Pastor explained it, that if there be the funding to support if the retirees want to go back to the old system. And that's why I'll be voting yes today.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes unanimously. My understanding is that Councilman Valenzuela, Vice Mayor, has to drop off the phone at this time. We'll continue with the agenda. Next item is item number, where are we on the agenda? 58. Thank you.
Move for item 58.
We have a motion in favor of 58. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilman Gates, did you have comments on item 58?
Yes, Mayor, I'll be supporting this item. It's actually in Councilman DeCiccio's district. This is a great project where we have some funding that's going to be going to a nonprofit that is in the housing business, providing affordable housing, and they're going to be adding solar panels to this facility, as well as smart batteries. So pretty innovative stuff here, and excited to support it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
I'm going to explain my vote. I will support it because I think it's a good project. I was hoping that it would be in District 4.
I'm okay if you want to move the lines. Do you want to move the lines? No, I'm just kidding.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes unanimously. Item 59 is a proposal to enter an agreement with Gorman and Company for Choice Neighborhoods. My understanding is the exact same issue that would appear before us with the Assisted Housing Governing Board. Councilwoman Pastor, did you wish to make the same motion you made earlier in this meeting?
I do. Do I have to reread it, Chris? Okay. The Housing Department will be required to partner with public and private agencies, organizations, and individuals together and leverage the financial and human capital resources needed to support the sustainability of the plan. These efforts should be build community support for and involvement in the development and implementation of the plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any cards on this item?
And do we need to say in addition to staff recommendation, or that was good?
Yeah.
In addition to staff recommendation.
Thank you. He nodded.
Well, wait a second. When you do it in addition to, well.
Just the recommended, the partnering with Gorman.
Oh, the partner, oh, just with the part dealing with the partnering with Gorman?
Right.
Or it's not about, because they had a whole different recommendation last time.
But like we will still move forward with Gorman, and we will still apply for choice neighborhood grants.
That part, sure. I got it, thanks.
Which I think was the meat of the actual action we are taking, in addition to making sure we have a lot of community involvement and that we leverage all the resources we can to do a great job for these residents.
Yep.
Yes.
We're applying for this grant. We want the resources and provide the housing. Okay. So we have a motion. We have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Missing.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes unanimously. Next item is item 72. Is that accurate?
Yep, move approval item 72.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on 72. Do you have any cards on 72? Thank you. Good one there. Item 72 is proposed adoption of an entertainment district in downtown Phoenix. And that was the motion was in favor, and there was a second, correct? Okay, so we have a few cards on this item. Let's see, Joel Robin Goldenthal, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Did you provide testimony on this item? Thanks for coming, up to 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're in favor?
Yeah, I'm Joel Goldenthal, Executive Director of the Nash and Jazz in Arizona. We opened up the Nash on Roosevelt Row in 2012, and it has quickly become a jewel of downtown Phoenix. It's galvanized the jazz community and become a national model. And because we're within 300 feet of a church, we were unable to get a license to provide alcohol to customers. There are some jazz fans that feel they have to have a brew or a glass of wine with their jazz. So I just really want to take this opportunity to thank the people from the city who have expedited the pursuit of an entertainment district, Councilman Gates and Nowakowski, staff members Blue, Anna Darian, and Mayor Stanton for your ongoing support of the arts, and we look forward to a positive vote for an entertainment district. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming down and testifying, and thank you for opening the Nash in our city. It's an awesome place. Chris Ackle, followed by Katrina Kaler.
Yeah.
Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to talk. I'm a commercial real estate broker, and I think having an entertainment district downtown will add increased value for property owners, added business for the downtown sector, and I think we'll draw people from out of the city, which will help us increase our tax revenue. So I am enthusiastically in support of the entertainment district.
Thank you very much. Thanks for taking the time to come down to our meeting. Katrina Kaler. Good to see you.
Hello, Mayor, Council. Nice to see you. My name is Katrina Kaler. I'm an active advocate of downtown Phoenix, and to be an active advocate of this community is to support the development of this community, and that includes this, the support of the development of a myriad of businesses that contribute to this dense community. And when it comes to this kind of development, we understand there are different businesses in the area, schools and churches, et cetera, but we feel that this is an appropriate approach to developing downtown. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come down and your leadership in downtown Phoenix. In favor, not wishing to speak, Bentley Calverley, David Kreider representing Downtown Phoenix, Inc., Sherry Rampey. Did you wish to speak? You marked if requested. Pat can tell me in favor of the item, available to speak if requested. Pat, you want to speak? You okay? James Kuykendall, Dan Clockey, also representing Downtown Phoenix, Inc. Farah Illich, Raimundo Cabrera III, Sarah Anderson. From DPI, Brandy Porter, in favor. Myra Watt, I believe, in favor. And Dorina Bustamante in favor. There are no other cards on this item. Now I'll turn to the members of the council. If anyone wishes to speak on this proposed adoption of entertainment district in downtown Phoenix, Councilman Nowakowski.
Mayor, I just really want to thank our staff for really reaching out there and talking to all the stakeholders. I mean, this was a process that we didn't have that much time to actually meet the goal by the end of the year and by the end of the summer. And I just really want to thank Paul Blue and Chris Mackey for reaching out and making sure that everybody was heard. They reached out to all the different stakeholders in downtown Phoenix, and they made everyone understand what the entertainment district was all about. And I also want to thank those individuals that are investing in downtown Phoenix. I mean, I was raised in downtown Phoenix, went to St. Mary's High School back in '82, and let me tell you, it doesn't look like it looks like now. And the future is going to look even better. So thank you for all those individuals that are investing in downtown, and thank you for the support of the entertainment district.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Other members of the council? Councilman, you want to say? Councilman?
I want to echo what Councilman Nowakowski said. I really appreciate you meeting with the neighbors and the partners at Downtown Phoenix Partnership and others who helped us very carefully craft the lines. Understand there was a lot of meetings and in detail, and so appreciate meeting with the stakeholders. We did above and beyond what was legally required, and I think that is why we have so much support.
All right, thank you very much. Any other comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the entertainment district passes unanimously. Congratulations. Thank you for coming down and testifying on a very important item. Next item on the agenda is item
74.
73? 74, I apologize. 74.
Laura wanted to do it.
Item 74 is award Summer Youth Rise Summer Employment Contract. Councilman Pastor, do you wish to make a motion on this item?
Oh, I wish to make the motion to approve the motion, but I also have questions.
Second.
A motion second. Questions? Councilwoman?
My questions are in how late the RFP was released. And me knowing youth workforce development, and also working with Arizona Collatine, the fact that the youth now, after our vote, will now be placed pretty much mid-June. I don't know if they'll be placed maybe next week. To me is very concerning because they only have, I think, 5 or 8 weeks of employment. School starts pretty early. And the other piece was employers and getting employers to take students in this place. I usually take students, I usually get contacted in April and prepared to take students in May, June, and get them ready and have the experience that they need. So I'm really concerned at how late this went out, and that's really my issue.
Mayor, Councilman Pastor, I'm going to ask Chris Mackey, our Economic Development Director, to respond to the question.
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, we absolutely hear your concern. This particular year, we face some challenges. It's the conversion from the WIA, the Workforce Investment Act, to WIOA, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And really understanding those guidelines, Congress was late to get our guidelines out to us and for us to get a full understanding of those. We also thought that based on that timeline that we would handle the Summer Youth Program internally this particular year. So we have actually gone out already and contacted and secured 140 positions for the students for 110 jobs that we're able to secure this year. So as we went to Mr. Blue and suggested that we handle this internally this year, he encouraged us to go through the RFP process and open it up to a competitive process, which we shortened up and did as quickly as we could. We have already started the summer youth training for their pre-job preparedness programs. Are running 4 of those programs. The first of them started at the beginning of June. So absolutely hear your concern, and next year I can assure you we will not be coming to you this late.
So they've already started?
No, ma'am. They have started the training portion, the beginnings. We do 4 cohorts, so some of the students have started the 2 days of workforce training with the Maricopa Workforce Connection.
But don't they get paid for that training?
They do not. That's part of their preparedness of getting ready.
Oh, okay.
They get paid as soon as they start with their employed position.
Okay. And we're talking 2 different programs, but the reason why I'm asking that is because the students in the past got paid for their training, and that was part of their workforce, the training and being prepared for the position that they were taking. And so it sounds like it changed.
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, you are correct. It's 2 separate programs. We pay with our summer youth funds to the employers, and we had paid prior on a different with a different revenue source, and they aren't paid at this time with that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other comments or questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Item 79, is that right? Is that correct? Okay, so there was a card that's been withdrawn. Do we have a motion on item number 79?
Move approval item 79.
Second.
We have a motion and second on 79. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Is item 85 next?
82.
82, thank you. We have cards on 82. Item 82 is the award of 2015 Neighborhood Block Watch Grant Program. Sherry Dudek, you're in favor and available to answer questions if needed. Good to see you. Thanks for. Okay, so Ms. Dudek serves as chair of the Block Watch Oversight Committee. Thank you for that very, very important service to the people of Phoenix. I know you have very tough decisions as a member of that committee, so thank you for doing it. I know you put a lot of time to make the right choices. Do you have a motion on item 82?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion in favor of the proposal. We have a second. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Passes unanimously. Ms. Dudek, thank you for your service. Next item on the agenda is 88? 85. I'm sorry?
Yes.
85.
Move approval, item 85.
We have a motion on 85. We have a second. Do we have a second? We need a second. We need a second. Councilman Williams got it. Councilman Gates, you have comments on item 85. This is the proposed agreement with the state of Arizona in support of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just want to give a big thanks to all the folks within the Phoenix Police Department who work in this area, the Internet Crimes Against Children, extremely difficult work. And I want to thank Representative Paul Boyer, who worked in the last session with a large constituency and worked with the governor's office to and the lottery to get funding from the lottery to help support additional personnel because we need a lot of people to be able to go through all the information and the hard drives, etc., to find out whether crimes have been committed. So I wanted to make sure that, and also thank our team, Tom Remus and John Wayne Gonzalez did great work alongside Representative Boyer to get this done. Thank you, Mayor.
This is fantastic. Boyer's a great guy. So.
Thank you very much. Other comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams. Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item is item number 99. This is the Sachs Webster Farmstead RFP recommendation. Do we have a motion on item number 99?
I'll make the motion. I just have one quick question for staff.
Motion by Councilman Waring. Do we have a second? Councilman Waring.
I'll just sit. They can hear me. So just confirming, so this is a sale of a city property. We're making money by the sale. They are going to have some restrictions going forward, but we are confident that those restrictions did not inhibit us getting the highest dollar for this property. Is that a fair statement?
Mayor and Councilman Waring, yes, sir. We're going through a process to sell the property, and there are going to be some provisions with regards to the historic nature of the property and the structure.
Get an easement?
No, when we talked earlier, Chris, I know we talked about two different subjects and then gave the wrong number to the wrong one or something. So this is not the actual sale. Am I thinking about the other issue we discussed?
No, Mayor, Councilman Waring, this is for a redevelopment and purchase agreement whereby the applicant has agreed to purchase the land and the dwelling for fair market value to rehabilitate it to historic preservation standards and carry a 25-year historic preservation.
Okay, so the deal is done because it was.
Well, this is authorization to enter into that agreement.
Okay, well, I mean, you've worked it out with the.
This is in response to the request for proposals. Next step is to get authorization to enter into those terms by which they applied for this or submitted their proposal.
Based on our discussion earlier, I thought that you had a buyer and that things were all set up.
Mayor, Councilman Waring, we have an applicant who was proposed to do this development deal, yes.
Okay, and this is and you're confident this is like the highest price we could get for it, regardless of what stipulations we put on it, about what they can do with it going forward?
with
Correct.
historic preservation.
We'll do an appraisal for fair market value, and that will be part of the purchase agreement as stipulated in the RFP.
Okay. All right. Didn't sound as simple in this explanation as it did my office, but okay. I think I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, obviously we're selling it with the stipulation that there will be a 25-year historic preservation easement. We're not offering other than that, so we don't know what the alternative pricing might be. But some people consider it a restriction. Some people think that the historic designation adds value. That's one of those great philosophical debates that we occasionally have. Other comments or questions by members of this council? Councilor Nowakowski.
And Mayor, this is actually in my district, and it's an awkward piece of property. You have to go through it's a long driveway, and it's there's a water, what is it, a retention?
Water, it's the Mayor and Councilman Nowakowski is the Levine Area Conveyance Channel. It's on the back side of that parcel.
But an excellent piece of flood control infrastructure.
Yes.
Absolutely. So it's not a real desirable piece of property. So I want to thank the individuals that applied to the RFP and that's willing to preserve the historic aspect of this property.
Okay. Other comments or questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is item number 100. Is that correct? Item number 100 is the proposed agreement with Valley Metro Rail for light rail operational costs. I have one card in favor. Not wishing to speak. Haley Tilden Ritter. Haley Ritter, thank you for coming. Thanks for being here. Do we have a motion on item?
Move approval?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments by members of this body?
I just want to get just a number on.
Sure, of course.
So I think that the public needs to understand what the true costs of these are, and they're starting to see what the cost of these trains are at the City of Phoenix. The total cost of this is right around $23.5 million per year that the City of Phoenix is going to be spending on just the operations of these trains. That comes out to $1.7 million a mile, per mile. And I just want you to think of what you can do with $1.7 million. These things are just incredibly expensive for the amount of ridership that you get. It is a problem. And it is a problem that I don't see how we're going to get more riders on this by extending it out further. And I think when the voters look at this thing and they start seeing the real costs associated with these expensive items, especially with these trains, and then they start looking at a comparison of what they could be using those monies for, then I think you're going to start seeing a difference out there. Right now, $23.5 million for 13.6 miles just to do the operations. It's insane. It's an insane amount of money to be spending on this. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Councilwoman Gallego, excuse me.
Thank you. I have a 13-year-old car right now, and the air conditioner has been sporadic, and it was just so fabulous. The Valley Metro bus, phenomenal air conditioning, so very grateful to Valley Metro for coming through ahead of my car. A couple questions. How do we compare to peer cities for cost and subsidy per boarding?
Mayor, Councilman Gallego, Albert Santana, our light rail manager, will respond.
Thank you, Maria, and Mayor, Councilwoman Gallego. Just a couple things to clarify as well. So, yes, Councilman DeCiccio, the cost for operations that was referenced for this year was $23.2 million. But just to clarify as well, to make sure that for transparency purposes, that's the gross cost that is put into the budget before entering into the fiscal year. But as we move through the fiscal year, we do net out fair revenue, advertising, as well as federal dollars for preventative maintenance. And to give an example, in last fiscal years, the original cost was approximately $22 million, but after netting out those three main items, the actual net cost that we're projecting for this fiscal year would be about $10 million. So that's one item. But in regards to our cost per subsidy on fair boardings, when we looked at it, we always look at about 7 different of our peer cities. They include Dallas, Denver, Houston, Sacramento, San Diego. Our cost per boarding is about $2.18. The subsidy on that is $1.31. And when we look at those cities, only San Diego and Houston have a lower subsidy than us. So we do fare very well with our peer cities, and we continue to strive to do better and better with that.
Excellent. Always like beating, especially some of those particular cities with certain basketball teams that we beat. So not that it's related to transit, but anytime we can meet
Yeah,
some
Councilwoman
of the
Gallego, I don't think we have to be careful with our sports teams lately.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should not bring up sports. That's good advice. And then on cost recovery, how are we doing this fiscal year versus last year?
As far as this fiscal year, Valley Metro recently released to the member cities the closeout of the first 3 quarters. The last few years, we've been around 40% cost recovery, and this year we're actually tracking through the first 9 months at around 47% on our cost recovery, which is a good path for us to head. Obviously, we've had some major events happen this year, which has been really positive for the system, but right now, tracking into our final quarter, we're right around 47% on cost recovery.
Excellent. And it is exciting to celebrate those major events. It was so fun to be at the Super Bowl hub, and what they were talking about was like, how do we get more people on Valley Metro? That's a good problem to have, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. Councilman Waring?
I guess I'll just say, only in this chamber would be bragging about 47% cross recovery. I mean, shocking. You know, it's 40, which is pathetic, and then 47% is supposed to be good, I guess, by comparison. It's only because it's a comparison to the pathetic 40. So I guess I'll just leave it at that, but I wouldn't be touting that statistic too often.
Mayor,
or any of you.
I've got a...
Just a moment. Any other council members want to make comments? Councilman DeCiccio, do you have additional
yeah, I do.
Comments?
They're bragging about the fact that they're only losing 53%, bragging about that. I mean, that's a shocking number alone. And Councilman Waring, you're dead on. When I heard the numbers here, it's like they're bragging, like, hey, we're recovering 47% of our monies. You go anywhere in the private sector, go to a laundromat, and they tell you that, hey, we're only making, or we're losing only 53% of our monies. They would tell you that it's time to close out that business. Likewise, here at the City of Phoenix, only here in these chambers can you hear people brag about the fact that they're only losing 53%. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor.
All right, Councilman Williams, please.
I have to disagree with my fellow councilman on this one, because I think it is a public service. It is something the city should be providing, and to hit that high a percentage is actually doing very well. A lot of the fees are discounted by this body. We offer incentives to purchase the tickets. I think we run an excellent service, and government has to provide public transportation. It can't be compared to the private entity. So I think you're doing a great job, and I appreciate it.
All right, Council, thank you very much, Councilman Williams. Councilwoman Gallego, did you have a follow-up comment?
Well, I just think we also ought to compare, gas tax. What % of the roads are recovered by the gas tax? Does the gas tax pay for the roads? Meaning that people who are driving, do they pay for the roads? I mean, we need to compare apples to apples here. It's not a laundromat, it's a transportation system. And in that way, we are very favorable, and we're working for efficiency, and we've really stepped up and improved that recovery. So I do think, I agree with Councilwoman Williams that infrastructure is not free, and that we ought to compare infrastructure to infrastructure.
I love that.
All right, thank you very much. Any additional comments? Councilman DeCiccio, do you have additional comments?
No, again, it's just only in this body can losing money be considered a victory. And it's just amazing to me, and that tells you why we have a fiscal issue here. And I think that when the voters see these numbers in August, they need to say no on Proposition 104, because you're going to get more of the same thing if you vote for this proposal. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman DeCiccio. Councilman Waring, did you have any additional comments? And obviously, we obviously don't get in politics here, but we are going to have a very important decision in this community, and the argument that there should be no government support for public transportation would obviously be an argument that we eliminate not just the current light rail system and not expand it. It would be an argument to eliminate the bus system throughout the city. It would be an argument to eliminate the dial-a-ride system in this city. I think this community believes that those important services are critical to the lives of tens of thousands of people across this city in order for them to get to their jobs, in order to get to their schools and education, both K-12. Obviously, Phoenix Union very, very much relies on the public transportation system in order to get students to school each and every day. How many thousands of people rely on that dial-a-ride system to get to their doctor's appointment? seniors, people with disabilities, people who live in wheelchairs. It's incredibly important services. And I respect the people who disagree with that philosophically, even if they do so with guffaws, et cetera. But I respect the differences, but I think that it's, from my personal opinion, those are critically important services for us as a community, as a city, to provide the citizens of the city of Phoenix. And those who feel otherwise, I respect that. They respect that they want to eliminate the bus system, eliminate the light rail system, eliminate the dial-a-ride system based upon the arguments we've heard here today. I respectfully disagree and will certainly be supporting the motion that's on the table. Any other comments by members of this council?
Guffaws.
Roll call.
DeCiccio.
No, and we should
Happily,
not
yes.
be subjected to false narratives.
No, Councilor DeCiccio would like to make a statement on behalf of his no vote. Councilor DeCiccio, jump right ahead.
Yeah, I'd love to. Mayor, you just gave a false narrative that if you don't do this, you don't get that. You can easily take out the train system out of the proposal and still support bus systems. It's not a yes or no on that. So at the end of the day, these are false narratives that you're going to hear from people who want you to spend $31.5 billion. It's not an either nor. And there are ways to serve the poor, and there are ways to make it work. It just doesn't work when you lose 53 cents on every dollar. Thank you, Mayor.
I apologize. I misunderstood the argument. I thought you were making an argument against the city providing fair subsidies for ridership, which applies not just to light rail, it applies to the bus system. It certainly applies to the dial-a-ride system if you look at it from a fair recovery perspective. I mistakenly was taking your argument relative to light rail and applying it equally to the other forms of public transportation. Roll call. Continue.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so the motion passes on a uh-oh.
Yes.
Pastor came back.
And
I already voted.
did you get my vote? Okay, so the motion passed on a
No, I did not.
6-2 vote. We do have to reconsider an item from earlier in this agenda, so now would not be a bad time. What item number was that? I think we mistakenly didn't have the exact appropriate form of a motion, so I think it's a technical change. Can we get a reconsideration of 89?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
So 89 is now back on the agenda, and what changes need to be made to the proposed form of the motion so we can get this right?
So my original motion did not include paying the contract on parking, and so it was a motion we would extend the contract but not pay them, and we do want to pay them while they are doing work.
It's a great cost saving.
No, we
Yeah,
don't.
this is not a cost saving.
If they're willing to do it for free, no, we don't. Why would we do
Councilman
that?
Gates could send out a new press release about the additional efficiency savings. No,
The guy was mad enough before. What's he going to think when we don't pay him?
All right. Is that a proper motion at this point?
So I will. Should I?
Oh, sorry. So Councilman Gallego?
I move to extend Ace Parking's contract for 1 year and not to exceed a cost of $9,014,149, and then rebid the contract, and if necessary, enter into a month-to-month agreement with Ace Parking until the contract is in place at an amount not to exceed $773,715 a month.
Second.
All right. We have a motion. We have a second. I don't know if the gentleman president of ACE is still here to find out he is actually going to be paid for the next year or more, depending on how long the contract goes. But okay. We don't see it. Okay. So we have a motion. We have a second. Is this roll call? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Item passed unanimously. Next item, Councilman Waring.
Move approval item 103.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on 103. Haley Ritter, did you wish to provide testimony on item number 103? And that is This is 103 is the Grand Canalscape Phase 1, 15th Avenue to Indian School Road and Garfield to Van Buren, Design Services. Good
Members of the council and mayor, I'm very excited about this plan. I just wanted to come here and do jumping jacks to let you know how excited I am. I'm not going to do that physically, but I've been riding my bike between Tempe and Phoenix for 20 years, and this is a wonderful improvement to our city, and I just want to thank you so much for all that wonderful hard work you're doing. Keep improving the buses, the light rail, and the bike lanes everywhere. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, Ms. Ritter, for that testimony. We, let's see, it's District 4 and 8. Do we have a motion?
We have it.
I move approval for item 103.
Second.
We have a motion. Let's let District 8 representative make the second, but you got beat,
Yes,
beat to the power. Second, all right.
A second.
Second, all right. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Yes. Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. Next item, Councilman Waring.
Move approval of item 111.
111. All right, item number 111 is a proposed, is it a just a second, let me look at it.
Terrazzo installation at the airport.
All right, so this is a proposed contract for construction phase services for the installation of terrazzo floor at Terminal 4 Sky Harbor Airport. Do we have any cards on item number 111? Do we have any comments from members of the City Council?
Councilman
Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. One quick comment. I've talked to staff. I know that some of the businesses there are concerned about interference with their business, and I ask for assurance that if the installation of the tile shut them down for a while, that they be compensated adjustment in their rent. So, and I understand that's true. Is somebody on staff that could shake their head?
If
yes?
the installation affects business, we hope and pray it doesn't.
The terrazzo is the light rail of the airport. Is that Felda got it? See?
Mayor, Councilman Williams, I'll have Ms. Fisher respond to your question.
Yes, Councilwoman Williams, when we're under construction and there are impacts to our business operators at the airport, we do make arrangements to compensate them for or relieve them of rent obligations for any impacts due to construction.
Great. And besides that, I think the tile will save us money over the years, right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments or questions for our professional staff on the terrazzo? All right. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Oh.
Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yeah, so the item passes on a 7-to-1 vote. If there's any leftover terrazzo, we can make backboards out of them.
Oh, yeah. Creative backboard, artistic.
All right, next item.
Get asterisks for your comments now so people can flip down to and understand what you're talking about.
That's an inside joke. All right, next item, Vice Chair Councilman Waring.
Move approval, item 113.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on item number 113. Ms. Ritter, did you wish to provide testimony? You're okay? You're in favor of item 113. Land license for Salt River Project for Nevitt Park Pedestrian and Bike Bridge Project. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item, Councilman Waring.
Move approval, item 116.
Second.
A motion and a second on 116. Ms. Ritter, did you wish to provide testimony on 116? In favor? All right. It's for the Transportation Department Bridge and Dam Safety Repair Program. Do we have any comments from members of the council on 116? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes unanimously. Is it 124 next?
Yes.
Do we have a motion on 124?
Move approval of 124, the public art program.
We We have a motion and a second. Any cards on 124? Any comments by members of this council?
We just like supporting the arts.
Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes on a 7-1 vote. I believe that it completes our regular agenda. Now we need to move on to, we still have one more?
We have 129.
Yeah, we're going to move on to the planning and zoning matters. I apologize. So the planning and zoning portion of our agenda. Well, I guess we'll start with item 129. Do we have a motion on 129?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a few cards on this item. Item 129, modification stipulation request for ratification planning hearing officer action. Sonny Almador, you should provide testimony on this item. Just in favor? Okay, thank you. Heidi Short, Fenimore Craig, are you representing Mr. Almador? In favor of the item as well? No need to speak? Okay, thanks for coming. We have comments by members of the council?
Mm-hmm.
Councilwoman Gallego,
thank you.
please.
So this includes actions in 3 districts, but my comments are only on in District 8. And thank you for making it through a very long meeting, probably more civic education than you'd hoped for. So the item in District 8 is expansion of airport parking. And this was one where there was some controversy of additional parking along light rail, and some of the community members had concern. And we appreciate the applicant working with the community and adding some additional things. And there is more, this is a little bit different project than some of the other projects on parking that are coming to us. So, and then we appreciate, unrelated to the zoning, but your support for the refugee community at this week's refugee event. So thank you, and with that, I will be voting in favor of this item.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Any additional comments by members of this council? No. Voice vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Next item, Councilman Waring.
Move for approval, item 130 to 138.
We do them all at once? Yes. We have a motion in favor of item 130 through 138. Are there any cards on those items? Any comments by members of the City Council? Roll call. Who gave the second on the motion?
Second.
All right, and I did call for a roll call, and let's just go for it. Why not?
It is a roll call. DeCiccio. Yes. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that completes our order of business here for the City Council, and I think the meeting is officially adjourned. I do have one additional card for citizen request. You've been very